across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, let me just quote the following words. Our party is no longer the party of the working man. Our party no longer has the intellectual vigour that was brought about in the trade union movement. Our party is no longer the party of Bevan or indeed Bevin. It has instead been taken over by a group of people who do not even like this country, who believe that an international order will be better than the British people, who don't accept the result of the Brexit referendum, who are a group of progressive lawyers who hate and disdain the working class. I am depressed today. The words of Lord Glassman, the Labour peer and intellectual. Tonight, I'm going to say to you that I take no joy in the destruction of the Labour Party. It was built by a group of phenomenal people. The Labour and trade union movement built this country, made so many changes. Creation of children's rights, the creation of trade unions, the creation of workers' rights, the idea of the cooperative movement. I am a right-winger. I believe in the defence of this country, and I think part of the defence of this country is to say that the Labour and trade union movement has been taken over by people who've been rebuked. Do you want me and Asher to crow about the result for Nigel Farage? We can do that. And I'm happy to do that because we are delighted that people who've stood up for ordinary, working, patriotic people have done well. But I will tell you conversely, I'm incredibly sad for the 1,357 ordinary Labour councillors, ordinary people who've stood up for this country and attempted to make a difference, who've been destroyed by a political party in the Labour Party that is nothing other than actually contemptuous.
They're cuckoos
snob.
in the nest, aren't they? They're not the actual, what the Labour Party is. They're parasites that have got hold of the Labour Party, and it's a husk of itself. They've taken over the body. It looks like it, sounds like it a bit, but then it's not really, is it?
So the reason I make this point is very, very simple. I think Nigel Farage has done the right thing in terms of realigning politics. Suddenly now, nobody's changed their opinion. What's happened is many people now believe that their number one issue is no longer economics, it's patriotism, it's immigration, it's defence of the Constitution. That's fine. Similarly, the Liberal Democrats have kept doing what Liberal Democrats do. The Green Party, Zach Polanski's an honest man. He is willing to do a deal with the jihadis in order to get himself into political power. Perhaps I went a bit farther. Let me roll that back slightly. He's willing to tolerate radical Islam and the pro-Gaza brigade in order to get elected.
And they're willing to tolerate a gay Jewish man at the moment.
And, of course, Kemi Badenoch has done well. She outpolls her own party. But the one party that I believe has behaved disgracefully is the Labour Party. And when we say that we need to take back control of this country, we need to take back control of the Labour and trade union movement. And I'm going to say to you that I think that's an incredibly important thing. Claire Muldoon joins us. She's a broadcaster. Claire, I'm not going to ask you any questions. I'm just going to ask you for your immediate response to all of these results.
Catastrophic for Labour. Really pleased that Labour have been shown by the British public that they are not fit for purpose, and then I believe that Starmer has to go. I don't believe the platitudes and the acerbicness of his talk this morning when he was interviewed by Beth Rigby at Sky, and he said the first thing he said was he felt sorry for, as you pointed out there, Andre, the 1,500, well, he didn't know that at the time, Labour councillors that have actually lost their seats. Good, honest, working men and women that have achieved great things for their constituents in terms of local councils. But I also think this is a further sign, Andre and Ash, that I put to you, that people were not voting for their local issues in England yesterday. Wales and Scotland are particularly different, as we know, because they were actually voting for places in their devolved governments. I think people, especially in England, actually voted for the bigger picture. They were actually making a point of not voting for Starmer. That was it.
But Claire, you have this major political party in Keir Starmer. And by the way, one thing we need to ban in British politics is this: I take responsibility. It's garbage. If you wish to take responsibility, you should apologise. If you want to take responsibility, you should change direction. If you want to take personal responsibility, you should take some form of personal responsibility.
Well, he should resign. He said he took full responsibility.
What annoys me is Keir Starmer's message is this: I have been insufficiently Keir Starmer. The reason that people think I'm crap is because I've not given them as much of myself as I could have. And what I mean by that is he says we need to double down. We need to go further. I think the answer is he should shift out the way and ordinary working class people should take back control of that political party.
Well, you see, that is the problem, and that's why Reform are doing so well. We've seen it in the Red Wall, we've seen it in 2 boroughs in London here as well, and in Wales, and they've got their first kind of council places in Scotland as well. I think that what you cannot do is keep the honest working man, woman down, and I think that's what this government has done.
He hates the working class, man, doesn't he? I mean, that's plain to see with Southport. He hates them with a passion. They're far-right racist bigots, and he would like them to disappear or throw them in gulags.
Absolutely right.
Well, yeah. Perhaps, although I think he might have something to say about that. I don't think he would say that, Ash.
Well,
However,
of course he will. He doesn't say anything truthful.
I've got no truck for anything that either of you have said. But Andre, I want to take up on your point. You started off by saying if he was a leader, he would say this, that, and the next thing. You've just proven the point. Starmer is not a leader. He never has been a leader. He doesn't lead with virtues of responsibility, of accountability, of wanting to do the right thing. He keeps speaking about being there for the working people. Remember that? The working person? He couldn't even define that. He couldn't even define a woman. He can't define anything. And he cannot define this mess that he's got this country and indeed his Labour Party into.
I've met you before. You've been in the studio. We don't know each other particularly well.
Yeah.
But my view on you is that you are one of these people, and I'd like to think of myself and Ash in the same way.
Don't club me in your camp, please.
I think that we are a group of people.
Like peas in a pod, we
are. I think we are a group of people who believe that, you know, action speaks louder than words, that you should defend your community, that you should defend your family, you should defend your country. And I'm just going to ask you about the accent, because this pathetic, self-pitying, socialist, well, not even socialist, progressive drivel started in Scotland, a country that actually, if there's any country in the world that's willing to stand up and fight, traditionally it's the Scots. But and yet this garbage that the whole United Kingdom's been infected with appears to have started in Scotland.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, the SNP, under the governance of Alex Salmond, fine, right? But what Cameron did in his stupidity was offer a vote, a once-in-a-generation vote, to the people of Scotland to vote if they wanted to remain in the United Kingdom. That vote wasn't allowed to Scots like myself living in England.
Correct.
But nor was it allowed for English people, Welsh people, or people of Northern Ireland to vote in as well. This is part of the United Kingdom here. This is a vote that would affect us all. So then that was Cameron's point and issue. Salmond was then kicked out dramatically by Sturgeon et al., whom I am certainly not a fan of. But the Scottish national movement is so divisive in everything it possibly can be. But moreover, I know people that have voted specifically for Labour in Scotland to keep the evil Greens out and to keep the SNP out, because the SNP stands on, let's be honest, its fundamental promise is independence. But how can you have that independence when you're not economically viable, when you're still relying on the Barnett Bung from Westminster, when you get more money per head per capita in Scotland than you do
what I don't understand about the union is this. So first of all, there's no Scottish independence. There's breakup of the United Kingdom. So let's change that narrative to start with. And secondly, look, I believe Scotland will be poorer outside the UK. I believe England will be poorer outside the UK, and certainly in terms of the national pride. As an Englishman, I don't love my country.
We'll be better off financially.
Well,
don't worry about that.
I don't believe that. I believe as an Englishman, I don't love my country. I love the United Kingdom, and I don't think I'm unusual in that respect. But what,
did you not know there's a World Cup happening?
No, it doesn't.
In the summer.
The World Cup's different, yeah.
But what worries me is this.
They stole our goalposts.
What worries me is everything's an allergic reaction to the United Kingdom now. You know, at the end of the day, what are we going to do about... Listen, if an independent Scotland wants to have uncontrolled immigration, if it wants to, go its own way, if it wants to leave NATO...
Andre, on that point of unsolicited immigration, that was actually a 1999 act from Westminster that said that Scotland had to take X number of illegal migrants until they were all processed. That's the reason why Glasgow now has the highest...
Oh, sorry, Claire, that's not what I was talking about. What I was talking about is the SNP have said an independent Scotland would have uncontrolled immigration and would leave NATO. We would have to put up Hadrian's Wall for the protection of England.
Yeah.
We'd have to do it.
Absolutely. And the SNP Scots are so myopic, they just cannot see past Hadrian's Wall, actually. They must be drunk on whiskey or something.
But the rest of Scotland's fallen apart, haven't it? Because you got your drugs problems and the stabbing violence problems came back after they got rid of them in Glasgow, and the education system was the best in Glasgow, and now it's all reversed, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, all the devolved powers have failed. Health, education, transport, energy, all failed. And yet they've got two big oil reserves up there in Rosebank and Jackdaw. And we are not, Red Ed's not giving them the licences.
What happens?
To drill.
What happens if a future right-wing government says it's UK or it's not UK, we're abolishing the national parliaments, or you leave?
Well, I think they have to dissolve all the quangos. And look what happened in Wales as well. You know, Labour are out of Wales, so they've now given rise to Welsh nationalism.
No, Claire, that's not what happened. Labour thought they were going to have a problem in Wales, so they rigged the system and still lost.
They still lost. They still lost. They lost to the Independent Party. And that's the problem, because when you look back in history, you will see the rise of the populist movements, like Reform have done now in the past 4 years, restore to a certain extent, although I don't think Rupert Lowe has got the momentum that is needed to carry it forward. But people start believing in the nonsense that's spewed out. We need to get rid of quangos. We need to shut down the shortbread Senate. We need to shut down the daffodils and get Britain united together. It's ridiculous that everything is so disparate. And yet the thing that bothers me as well is the SNP want to be part of Europe far rather than would want to be part of the UK.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go figure.
Well, let me just say something, Claire. We're going to have to move on, but she's no communist, is she? She's not going to join a local Lib Dem focus team anytime soon.
She's not pretending.
Anyway,
thanks for joining us.
I'll tell you what we should do. Why don't we I think we've got a clip now, and then we're going to go straight to the break.
Former Welsh leader. Yeah.
There we go.
Thanks, Claire.
I'm very proud of what Welsh Labour has achieved over all the years we've led in the Senedd. But today, the pressures on public services are enormous. That change is clearly not coming fast enough. We're living in turbulent times. There are challenges in all directions. Many expect simple answers to very complex questions. But there are no simple answers, and the budgets are limited. The age of two-party dominance is dead. We need to recognise that multiple parties are now in contention across Wales.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
One thing that I want to do before we do anything else is this. This show has changed today. And I'll tell you why it's changed, because there are so many of you who have been watching this show, who've been listening to this show, been calling this show, texting us, messaging us, and saying that you're thinking of running for council. I know now there are loads and loads and loads of regulars who are now councillors, who've had the first day, who've been sworn in, who've been given your pack. You don't need to worry about the Reform Party, because I know you are principally Reform. You don't need to worry about that. You can phone up with a fake name and say, I'm a newly elected councillor, or you can give your real name. We would love, love, love to chat to you if you're out campaigning for any political party. If you changed the way you voted, perhaps you were Labour before, now you're Green. Perhaps you were Labour before, now you're Reform. Perhaps you're one of the people who saw Kemi Badenoch's speeches and thought, hey, I'm sticking with the Conservatives. And by the way, there's a lot of those. If you are a new councillor, if you're a defeated councillor, 0344 499 1000.
Or even like just a normal commoner who just feels now a bit more optimistic than you've been for the last 5 years. You know, you actually can see a bit of a silver lining. Do you feel? Oh, what's that? It's gone a bit very loud all of a sudden.
Okay.
But yeah, if you feel very optimistic about it, you know, tell us how you feel after the last night's.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We were not desperate, but we're really keen to hear from you. But whilst you think about
0344 499 1000, by the way, you can leave us a WhatsApp voice message if you're scared to come online.
Whilst you're thinking of calling, we've got a couple of clips for you. The first one is Keir Starmer insisting that he won't walk away, even though it's been a terrible night for the polls.
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. Labour's elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
But that's where we are, though. I mean, please do walk away. He's the reason we're in the chaos we're in. I mean, it was bad enough with the Tories, but then he's added a whole nother level, hasn't he?
It's amazing. Right, I always give this example, and I'm not comparing at all, but do you remember when we went to the Holocaust Educational Trust dinner?
Yeah.
Right. And they were talking about that guy. They'd interviewed this bloke, right, and they said there's this psychological effect which is really prevalent in politics, and they discovered it with this Nazi. What had happened was, this guy had been in the SS, he'd been arrested at the end of the war by the Russians, and they stuck him in the gulag for something like 15 years. Now, obviously, because he'd been prosecuted for his crimes, because he'd done 15 years hard labour, when he was sent back to West Germany, he was allowed to continue his career, quote, at a major automobile manufacturer. And this guy said he was a Jewish intellectual. He was a Jewish intellectual. He was a Jewish professor.
Like me, yeah.
He was a Jewish professor.
Similar to me.
And he went to meet this bloke, and he said, well, what was it like? Oh, the war was awful. It was terrible. And he said he was just a normal German bloke. And then he started asking about the Jews, and the guy said, oh, the Jews did this, the Jews did this. And he said, but hang on a second. All of this conspiracy that you've said, there's no evidence for any of it. And he said, do you understand one thing? If these people are too clever to leave any evidence. And what the academic said was, there are occasions when people see evidence that completely refutes their own position. So the fact that there was no evidence that the Jews had done these things, he saw as evidence in of itself. That is what Keir Starmer's doing, not on the same level. But
we've seen that since October when they're saying about the genocide part of this. Is
exactly. But Keir Starmer, when people are voting against him, he believes that's evidence that he should do more of what he's doing.
Do you really think he believes that, or do you think...
I think he does.
It's as if he's been trolling us, you know, the British public. They bought all those, you know, are they just going to try and say, oh, look, there's so much civil disturbance and that we can't have an election?
No.
This is how the authoritarians work.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I think, yeah, that's a different point. It's a good point, though. Really good point. I'll answer it in two ways. Point number one, I think what that Jewish professor discovered was right. I think Keir Starmer has seen everyone voting against him, and he believes that's evidence that he should do more, right? Not do less. But secondly, in terms of cancelling the elections, I would have said to Asher Gould 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you're a lunatic for saying he'd cancel the election. But we've seen elections cancelled. We've seen us all put under house arrest. We've seen an attempt at mandatory medical treatment. We've seen...
They bought body marquees for hundreds of people about it. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
They tried to get... they bought loads of morgue tents for mass casualty events. What's all that about, man?
And I'll tell you something else. We are sitting here trying to rationalise all of this. These people are so on a pedestal, so away with the fairies, they don't even understand. I mean, when somebody in Wales stands up, what is the concern in Wales? Let me tell you what the concern in Wales is. They know that their best friend is one of the richest countries on earth, England. They know that the key thing here is about getting the UK economy going. They know that they've seen their English brethren be invaded by immigrants and asylum seekers, HMOs and all this. And what the Welsh are doing is sat there going, no, I'll tell you what we want. We want closed borders, and we want English economy to do well, and we want that bloody Port Talbot Steel Works reopened. And then you have these, forgive the language, wankers from the Labour Party standing up going, we've tried to do this, we've tried to do that. No. They don't want Ed Miliband. They don't want 20 miles an hour. What they want is they want their economy back. They want their constitution back. They want their country back. And the idea that people don't understand that is absolutely crazy. Anyway, I will tell you one thing in defence of the old establishment. To be fair, Kemi Badenoch has done pretty well. Here's a clip from her. Now, just remember, she has retaken multiple councils. The numbers are down on 2022, which is when these elections were last contested for the Conservatives mostly. But the numbers are down. But by God, her percentages are up. I personally think, and people might disagree with me, that comment she made about anti-Semitism when a pro-Gazan person was shouting in her face, and she shouted back going, no, I'm sorry, they're not killing the Muslims, they're killing the Jews. I think that made a huge difference. I really do think that made a huge difference. I think that even though her party's a bit of a sinking ship, I think is somebody...
Trouble. Well, that's the trouble. She's doing very well, but she's held back by a party, and people remember the 14 years where they did nothing for this country, and they're still all in place, and Kemi's doing a good job, but it's got a bad smell with all those people still. We're going to hear from her, aren't we?
Well, I will say one thing. Westminster and Wandsworth are now both Conservative boroughs tonight, which is their two flagships, both of which were Labour yesterday. And what are we having now?
This is Kemi. Let's hear what a more upbeat Kemi.
We need people to know that hope is coming. The Conservatives have to come back because, my goodness, this country needs us. We are coming back to fight for our high streets. We are coming back to fight for hard-working people. We are coming back to fight for businesses. We are coming back to fight for veterans, for parents, for farmers. We're coming back to stamp out anti-Semitic hatred on our streets. Coming back to deliver a stronger economy. We're coming back to deliver a stronger country. And we are coming back to get Britain working again. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad, but no cigar.
The man over Kemi's right shoulder, for those watching, is not my dad.
My dad could be your brother. I mean, he's too young for your dad, isn't he?
My dad was coming. I see it.
Do you remember I saw that portrait in a gallery in Highgate, and it was like you and your dad, and I sent it to you. I go, when did it? And you go, it looks like me and my dad, but it's not.
I'll tell you what. I've got a mate called Patrick, and I went to a hotel in Yerevan, Armenia, and on the wall was a picture of him riding a mermaid. It was a bit weird. OK, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Right, we need to get your calls. 0344 499 1000. Do us a favour. Put Paul through from Newcastle. Let's do it.
We'll ring you back as well if you call us in. Don't worry about that.
Let's chat to this bloke.
Let's get Paul on. Hi, man.
Go on. Do it.
Hi. Paul in Newcastle, man.
Oh, no. OK, that's not quite working. I'll tell you what we're going to do.
Should we take a little break here? Look, we'll take... we got Paul here. Paul.
Hi, Newcastle. You're straight through to the studio.
What's up, man?
I think Stormers had a warning today.
Well, he's had more than that. He's had a kicking.
But
metaphorically.
I think it's come up to the 90th anniversary of a thing called the Jarrow Crusade.
It is.
I think I can really see that happening again.
Do me a favour. Do me a favour. So the Jarrow Crusade, just explain to everybody what that is, because it's so important to the labour and trade union movement.
Well, it was a march for workers.
So they went all the way from Jarrow to London because they were going to insist on workers' rights.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
And they were put in prison for it. So I'm doing your work for you, though.
Yeah. I think that can see what's happening again.
And essentially what they did in those days was they said our political system is so incapable of understanding our needs that we are going to walk all the way from the northeast and we are going to personally present ourselves at the Palace of Westminster and demand what we want. And you're saying that's going to happen again. I think
what was the result of the Jarrow walk then?
Very little.
Not a lot.
He managed to go pretty good at the moment.
But the reality...
again.
The reality is, Paul, in a communications age, is that not what has happened? Because actually, in reality, the Labour Party has been told by its working class roots to shove it.
Yeah.
It's not the same Labour Party. Don't you think it's been sort of taken over like a parasite? This almost like this Fabian society, cuckoos in the nest, and it's not the actual Labour Party.
No, I think it's actually the Labour Party that betraying the British people.
Weird.
But what about this delineation that Asher was driving at, which is the idea that ordinary working class people created this party in order to push forward their views, and this party has been hijacked
by the elites.
Yeah, it's been hijacked by the elite people,
the champagne socialists. The narcissists, the virtue signallers from their multi-million-pound houses, preaching about socialism. And, you know, they all go on about how Tony Benn's a hero. Well, I can understand that. That multi-millionaire Tony Benn in his stately home, who, when he died, he avoided taxes, inheritance tax. So that's a real of-the-people person, isn't it? It all comes out. See, you just scratch the surface and you can see the hypocrisy in this lot. And this is, you know, where it comes from.
Yep, you can.
OK, Paul, thank you so much. 0344 499 1000.
Concise, wasn't he, Paul? Concise.
I just want to congratulate my good friend Andrew Rosendale, the MP for Romford. He gave me, very, very kindly, gave me my first break in politics as a House of Commons intern. And today he's celebrating the London Borough of Havering being completely wiped out by reform.
First London borough, isn't it? Yeah.
Now, by the way, I will say one thing. It was amazing watching Rosa, as he hates being called, stood next to Nigel Farage. And Nigel Farage going, well, we're here in London. And you could see Andrew Rosdale thinking, Essex has all voted reform.
Actually, let's hear from Nigel Farage, our mate Nigel. He spoke today of an historic day for British politics. Press play on the Betamax.
It's our first win of a borough in London, and that in some ways goes against the trend, because the pattern that's emerging over the country is that Labour are being wiped out by reform in many of their most traditional areas, and what you're going to see later on today is the Conservative Party being wiped out in their heartlands like Essex. So London goes a bit against the trend in that the Conservatives and Labour have held up in some of the other boroughs. But I think overall what's happened is a truly historic shift in British politics. We've been so used to thinking about politics in terms of left and right, and yet what Reform are able to do is to win in areas that have always been Conservative, but equally we're proving in a big way we can win in areas that Labour have dominated, frankly, since the end of World War I.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we are actually not gleeful about the results today. We genuinely are non-political. We believe that every single community, every single person has the right to express themselves in a legitimate way. I will tell you, I'm incredibly sad about the results in Waltham Forest, where the Greens have taken control. I think that Zach Polanski has done a deal with some pretty radical and nasty Islamists. I've got a very good friend of mine in Camden who is a Muslim councillor, or was rather, and he is saying to me that he's extremely concerned about the way that extremism has been unleashed in this country in terms of radical Islam. Anyway, we're not trying to lament, we're not trying to be gleeful about anything. What we're trying to do is lament the fall of the Labour Party. And I know that everybody in British media is going to be gleeful about this. Everyone's going to be delighted. Everyone's going to be happy. I'm saying the Labour and trade union movement built this country, changed this country, made a significant contribution to this country, and it has been destroyed, as Maurice Glassman said, by progressives who believe in an international order, who believe in uncontrolled immigration, who believe that British people are brutish, moronic, stupid, and that the continent is better ruled.
And is this 100 years later the formation in the same way of the Reform Party, of the next 100-year party in the end of that? Is this that big a moment for reform? And I think it might be.
Well, I will tell you something, Asher, and we've got Andy Williams coming on in a second, who's a great political commentator.
And pianist.
I worry about the fall of the political left to the extreme. Andy, look, I had Claire Muldoon on a second ago. I'm just going to... You've heard my introduction. Look, your comments on today.
Well, firstly, it's always a delight to follow Claire Muldoon, who's one of my favourite people. Look, you're talking about extremism, and what I'm worried about is the extremism that we're seeing on both sides of British politics today. That is the story of today. It's the story of the rise of the extreme left and the rise of the extreme right. And as somebody who is on the mainstream liberal centre of British politics, which is where I believe most people in this country are, even if that's not what the votes are suggesting tonight, I just wish that the mainstream parties and mainstream politicians with mainstream ideals would get their act together.
Like Reform, they're not extreme right. They're like the old Tory, the old Thatcher Tories. How can you call them the extreme right? It's ridiculous.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not like Thatcherites. So one of the interesting things I think about Reform is that actually, if you look at the main senior people within that party, they actually all come from very different traditions and think very different things. Maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Well, no, actually, before you go further with that, Andy, I'd love to explore that. I'm sorry to cut you off mid-point, sure. But there's a theory going round, right, which may be wrong, which actually what's happened is everybody still thinks the same thing, but your reason for coalescing into a political party has changed. So let me give you an example. My dad used to be a member of the Labour Party. My dad used to be a director of the Co-op. My dad, yep. I think is somebody who could be pretty resoundingly accepted as a moderate lefty. He's a massive Reform supporter and always disagreed with me. He was never really a Conservative. But now, because he's concerned about the state of the country constitutionally, he's now with Farage, who is a Thatcherite. He doesn't agree with Farage's economic policy, but he's with him because, suddenly it's not all about economics in the way it was in the past. It's now about constitutionality. And I guess my question is this. Is it possible that actually what has happened is what matters to people in terms of which way they vote has changed?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. And there's certainly been a break in the chain where generation after generation of people on the left voted Labour because they felt that's what they had to do, what they should do, what their parents did, what people from their city or from their area did, that's definitely been broken. I mean, look at Sunderland Council tonight for the first time in, I believe, well over 50 years, is no longer a Labour council. It's remarkable. Sunderland, you know, the northeast of England, a Labour stronghold.
Well, let me give an example. I mean, I'm from Lee. My own borough, Wigan. Look, Reform took every single seat that was available, apart from one that went to an independent.
Yeah, but the union bosses, they're all calling for Starmer to go. There's Labour MPs now saying if he goes all the way to general election, he might cause the actual extinction of the Labour Party. Do you think this is the end for him? Can he hang on? I mean, he will not leave. Will he call a general election if he's forced to leave? Because that's what
he's not going to. He's not going to call a general election. That is definitely.
Well, that was his threat, though, wasn't he? Is he not that bitter that if they did that, he could do that? I mean, Sunak.
No, because actually, I really think that if he was going to go, he would go with his head held high. Not everyone would agree with that, but I think he'd go.
Can I ask you this question, Andy? Look, and it's not your job to speak for Keir Starmer.
Certainly not.
What does he want?
If it was, trust me, I'm a professional. He'd be doing much better in the polls.
Well, okay, but what does he want? I mean, I get the idea that he's one of those people who, you know when you go to like a family party and there's the fairly, like there's Uncle Knobhead that Peter Kay talks about, and then there's the boring one who's quite safe. So basically, when they're all kicking off, you go over and talk to him, and he's attacking the hummus and drinking soft drinks. I get. Right.
Let me.
He's that bloke. No, but my point is this. Look, why is he the Prime Minister? What is it he wants?
It's a really good question. Let me answer that with 2 points. The first is that for years, British people have been saying, do you know what we want? We just want a normal person to be Prime Minister. We're sick of these weirdos, these career psychopaths, these...
Yeah. Well, he's a weirdo, no?
No, give me a second.
No, but hang on. Let me just hear me out on this, right? We've had successive, different types of strange people, high-functioning, psychopaths of different kinds being Prime Minister, for better or for worse. And actually, the British people were saying, we would like somebody who's just kind of a normal bloke.
But we ended up with the biggest psychopath of all.
No, but hang on a second, Andy, I get that. But when he sat there,
my point.
Sorry.
So, but when he sat there, no, I've got your point. When he sat back and thought to himself, I've been director of public prosecutions. I can make 20,000 a day at the bar. I've got a knighthood, right? I really want to be proud. I get why the public might like Keir Starmer. I don't get why Keir Starmer likes the public.
Is it a vanity thing?
Well, I think it has to be. Look, let's be completely honest about it. The vast majority of everyone who gets to the top of politics, they have an ego. Why else would you do it?
He was a lead singer in a band, and so was Tony Blair. There is sort of, being a celebrity for ugly people, isn't it? Politics.
And there's a famous. You remember David Cameron was once asked before he was Conservative leader, why would you like to be Prime Minister? And he said, because I think I'd be good at it. And the reality is that Keir Starmer thought the same thing. He thought, I've been a highly successful man. He's genuinely come from a lower middle class background. No one's saying he came from deep poverty, but he didn't come from an auspicious or wealthy background, and he worked his way up through his hard work and his intellect. And I think he thought, I've succeeded at everything in my life. I could probably be a good Prime Minister as well.
But why couldn't he be?
He hasn't been.
Why couldn't he do?
Realise.
I'll tell you what he is. He's effectively, if you like, Jed Bartlett. If you ever watched The West Wing.
Oh, if only. No,
but the central concept of Jed Bartlett, for those that didn't watch The West Wing, was that he was somebody who was basically university professor. Senior barrister, I think is probably on the same level intellectually. And the idea about Jed Bartlett was that you could actually be somebody who wasn't massively political, but actually was just a good person. And I get the impression...
Like Cameron, really.
I get the impression that Keir Starmer believes if you are a good person and you make the system right, then everything will be perfect. And you don't actually have to believe in anything.
How can he believe he's a good person after trying to deny the grooming gangs investigation?
Well, I do think he's a good person, but putting that to one side...
How can you be?
I actually do. I think there's some
Yeah,
some
but
truth in
whether
that,
he's
you know,
the reality is whether he's a good person or not's irrelevant. Simply because
he's
I
not
mean
good enough at the job.
my grandmother was a good person.
Trying to block an investigation into girls getting raped. I mean, how is that a good person?
Well, I think if you look at the span of his life and his career, actually, what history says about Keir Starmer as a man, as an individual, is that he's motivated overall by good. You know, when you are the leader of a country, you are put in an invidious position time and time again every day. You have very difficult decisions to make. I understand the point you're trying to make, but I'm not talking about whether he's a good person or not. I'm talking about the fact that what he lacks is a vision, a purpose, a strategy, and that is why he has failed as Prime Minister. Now, that said, am I going to say, well, I think he should be resigning tomorrow morning? And by the way, I'm just coming up past Downing Street where he would be doing that. Well, no, I don't, because the alternative, whether it's the alternative within the Labour Party or the alternative among the contenders in other political parties, I think is worse on every level. So I'm not pretending we're in a good spot, but the question is not, is Keir Starmer doing a good job? The question is, who can you find who could take over
wouldn't you think? I mean, you say about any of the main parties. What about Badenoch? She's you wouldn't think hers. She's far right, would you? I mean, surely she would be more sensible with our economy and the way our country's going.
But you don't have to think somebody's far right to think that they would do a bad job, and I just don't think.
No, but better than Andy, what happens? What happens if I say to you that there are a group of people who are really, really disenchanted with the way the system works for whatever reason? Some of them are going to vote Reform, some of them are going to vote Green, some of them are going to vote and actually none of them are far right or far left anything. Actually, what they are is a group of people for whom the system has failed. And I honestly think, look, at the end of the day, there's no point in us three pretending that we're not rich, right? The reality is we're rich, we're powerful, we're successful, we live in big houses and go around in big cars in a way that the people that we grew up with don't, right? So let's just be honest about that. But I think there is then another group of people, and I'm afraid I'm gonna have to finger politically but not physically Zach Polanski.
Definitely politically, not physically.
There are another group of people who actually have been seduced by Islamist radical nationalism, and I believe it is possible to say. And what would I say? What would you say to me if I said to you, I believe that none of these people are far right or far left, but there is a radical Islamist agenda that Zach Polanski is sucking up to, and that Farage and the Green Party and the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats are not extremists, but Polanski and his chums in the Islamist movement are the only extremists?
Oh, I think that's a really interesting point. I think there are elements of the... So look, I think there's always going to be, and it's hard to put a number on it, like between 5 and 10% of people on the extreme left and the extreme right who will just vote for whatever the most extreme alternative is in either direction. That's why Rupert Lowe's Restore Party exists, right? Like, it's not serious. I mean, I have to be careful what I say because I'm there, but you know, this is. Yeah, but I'm
saying there is a problem with radical extremism, and it's none of these parties. It's Polanski and his chums from Hamas.
I think there is. I think extremism and populist solutions. They are simplistic solutions. They're not solutions at all.
But you know that's. But Andy, you know that's not what I'm driving at.
No. I'm going to answer your question. Whether extremism is left or right, it's equally bad in different ways. If we're going to talk about the Green Party, I mean, I think they're incredibly dangerous. I think not only is it mad and concerning in terms of the sort of sectarian aspect, but it's also deeply unworkable. Let me just give you one example of a Green policy that is obviously unworkable. It is stated, it wasn't in their manifesto, but it has subsequently become Green Party policy within the last year, that there would be, under a Green government, which obviously is not going to happen, there would be a cap of a 10-to-1 ratio from the highest paid to the lowest paid person in any organisation. Now, given the minimum wage is basically 25 grand a year now.
Andy, let me help you. Listen, you know and I know what the problem is. The reality is, my family fled Northern Ireland as a result of the Troubles. There were people yesterday banging on doors saying, if you support Gaza, you will vote Green. Now, there was no, in fairness, there was nobody knocking on doors in Burnley saying, if you disagree with Catholics, vote Conservative. There was nobody in Scotland. There was nobody in Scotland. There was nobody in Scotland saying, if you want to kick in the prods, vote SNP. None of that was happening.
It's interesting you should raise this because it's not a sectarian point, but Zia Youssef explicitly, and it's on the record, we can go and find the tweet, he said, if you don't vote Reform, you might find that there is a migrant hotel housed in your constituency.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
Let me finish my point and you can respond.
Okay.
Right? That is not the way that politics has ever been done in this country.
I do not accept. Listen, Andy,
we've never had hotels for migrants, have we?
Andy, we've had a fair-minded conversation. I do not accept that's the same thing, because what I'm talking about is vote on your religion, right?
Yeah,
if you are a Muslim, you will vote Green. Now I'm telling you, the Conservative and Unionist Party, which was traditionally, though I'm a Catholic, but was traditionally associated with the Church of England, they're not knocking on doors. They're not knocking on doors saying, stop the Catholics, vote Conservative.
I agree with that. I'm making a related point, which is that in a democracy, right, in a liberal democracy, you should not be making threats to anybody in terms of how they vote. You make your case, you try to persuade, and then you say, make your choice. And what Reform have been doing, I'm not saying it's the same, but there is overlap in terms of how the Reform Party have been saying, well, if you don't make the right choice, maybe
Andy, I love you to bits. The problem is you've been that good, Andy. You've been that good that I've ruined my timing. We're going to have to go straight to a break.
Thanks, Andy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, we've only got a couple of moments because I got the timing so badly wrong. But Asher, look, I would have loved to have kept Andy Williams on for a bit longer, but do you...
We could have kept him on, but...
Oh, well, OK, I'll tell you what, let's go to Tristan. Tristan, you heard that point. I don't think we're extremists. I think there is one extremist, and I think the rest of us are just a little bit annoyed.
I'd agree. Absolutely right. Yeah, what an election that was. What an election.
And you're in Southend. Tell us about Southend.
OK, so Southend, I was actually at the count
It's got a really
on the
long
night.
pier.
Yep, it has. I was there for the count on the night. Every party was lovely to me because I've been a member of many, many parties over the years. And everyone...
You are a political slut.
You tart.
I am. Slut. Absolute slut. Completely agree. So, believe it or not, I actually had to vote on local issues. The problem we had here is Reform did not produce any local manifesto.
Wow,
whatsoever.
OK, so what did you do then?
Believe it or not, I had to go on who did the best job, and I, for once, only the second time in my life, I voted Labour.
Wow.
Crazy fool.
I know.
OK, so this is really important. You've only got 2 minutes. But explain why somebody who is so vociferously Reform, somebody who came out as Jewish after the attacks, the incursion into Israel, why would you say that local issues were so important that you voted Labour for the first time?
Andre, I have to be honest with you, because they produced no local manifesto whatsoever, no pledges, no promises. How can I vote for Reform? I couldn't.
Yeah, but why positively vote for Labour?
Because I know what they've done in office, and some of it's been good. We've just had £1 million spent revamping all our...
Yeah, but that's not what this vote was about. This was a vote about the national government.
No, I'm sorry, it wasn't.
It's not meant to be, but that's how this was. This is what this was.
Yeah, Ash, people treat these as mock general elections.
Exactly, and that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's a message to Starmer, and now they're telling him to leave, you know.
But I have to live here with the consequences.
No, Can I tell you something?
You'll be all right.
What Asher has said is in practice true.
Yeah.
But in reality, constitutionally, what you've done is right.
Yeah, but it's the same as a general election. No one votes for the well, some do, but you vote for who you want as Prime Minister.
I'll interrupt. I'll tell you what, if it was a general election, it may have been a very different story, but I voted local.
You see, you can't pick and choose whether you believe the constitutions or not. You're even a tart on the constitutions, Tristan.
Oh, yeah, I am, but I was well looked after, and thank you to my friend Mandy who invited me for the count.
Your mate called last night when we were on air.
Which one?
Which one was it? The one who came in with you. Do you get a special Braille?
Time.
Do you get a special Braille voting form or something? Because
they do now. Yeah. My friend.
Or the guide dog. Does he do it? The guy? No.
By the way, to Brian in Dorset, he says, I'm fed up with not hearing with what you talking because I'm hearing with correcting the grammar. OK, just to be clear.
Okay. He's northern, don't blame him. It's
contact me about grammar and screw up the sentence because that's just not going to work.
03444, thanks Tristan. Yeah, your mate call 03444 499 1000. Call us and tell us how you feel about this election. Has it changed your view? Are you more optimistic now or are you a bit more pessimistic? Is there any... Anyway, forget all that. George Gilbert's coming up after the break, so that's going to be great. But now we got the news. Join us again in 2 minutes with George Gilbert. Oh, yeah.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, Andre's had to go appoint Percy at the porcelain, but don't worry about that. We'll be taking all your calls, and we've got tomorrow's papers today. But more importantly than that, guess who's joined us? It's George Gilbert. Hi, George.
Hello, hello, hello.
He's a former Big Brother star. He was controversial. He got sort of kicked out controversially, and then he sort of had a foray into politics. But you've actually worked in councils before. You've been a councillor.
That's right. I've been a parish councillor, which is the lowest.
The lowest, it's the lowest of the low. It is the lowest, and it looks like you just come from the Crucible, the World Snooker Championships.
Yeah, well, I always want to make an impression, and I mean, when I'm on yours and Andre's show, it's not hard to stand out as the best dressed man in the studio. But yeah, I'll take that crown again tonight.
Very, very hurtful.
But yeah, I was a parish councillor. That is a non-partisan role. Some parish councillors are belonging to a party, but I wasn't. I was independent.
You were interested in joining Reform, but they hurt your feelings, didn't they? Because they've got this sort of unit that checks your social media, and there's something they didn't like or something.
That's right. Well,
not really fair, is it?
I've spent a lot of time and effort trying to fly the Reform flag in the many years I've been a member. I joined as a member in 2022. That's before even Nigel Farage was in the party, because he left. So just That's Richard Tice. I was there when nobody else believed, and they. So as a result,
did you meet Richard Tice? Did you ever meet him?
No, I met Lee Anderson at some event I went to. That was at Christmas time, so not long ago. But
he's nice at Christmas. By the way, if you ring, Andre's manning the phone 03444991000. Ring Andre, see if he's any good at doing the calls. We'll ring you back. We'll try anyway. So,
but yeah, I put my name in the hat to stand for Reform in these elections, and then they did a bit of research on me and didn't like me for whatever reason, and it was actually because unjust reasons, but I apparently hurt their feelings. But what makes me laugh, Ash, is there's numerous reports that Reform councillors have won by quite a large margin last night in Sunderland and in Bolton, where they've said some proper derogatory stuff, saying slurs about Indians with the P word, saying there's too many Nigerians, we should melt them and fill in potholes.
Really? Are you sure?
I believe that's a Sunderland councillor.
Are you sure about that?
To be fair,
Farage would kick them out if he knew about that.
These are hope not hate articles that were written about them. But the point is, Ash, is that people, if you're in the higher up,
I mean, Farage wouldn't stand for that. He kicks you out pretty good. I mean, as you found out.
I don't know, but not to blow my trumpet, but I am a bit more prominent because I've been on telly. I'm famous.
And the red hair, very distinctive.
Yeah, but this is it. It feels like if you're worthy enough, you've got high status, or you're an MP, you can say whatever you want. But little old me, as a supporter, a very loyal one at that, you get shown the door straight away, and that was my gripe. Having said that, I am pleased Reform came up trumps in these elections, because it shows the trend of the nation. It says that we're done with liberalism, or this new form of liberalism, and people are coming to their senses. And yes, there are still some people set in their ways, still voting Labour, Conservative, but by and large,
they've had a good kicking.
Reform are seen by the average Joe as anti-establishment, and that's what we need more.
But do you think they're now more than a protest party? Do you think this is like 100 years ago, the launch of the Labour Party? Are we seeing a now establishment party? And what about the other two, the Uniparty? Is it over for them, or at least one of them? Do you think this is the start? Is Reform at one of the main parties now?
Reform certainly is one of the main parties, but I think
that's quite historical, though, isn't it? That hasn't happened.
Yeah, it is, and
for
kudos to them. Yeah, it's unheard of that their meteoric rise. But let's not beat around the bush. The Conservatives did a lot better than I imagined as well. They regained Westminster. They held in numerous urban areas like Greater Manchester. They won
Birmingham,
seats.
they've done all right. I think
Wandsworth.
Do we know Birmingham? Have Reform won or has Tory? It was close between Tories and Reform.
Not 100% sure, but I believe Reform won. But no, even in urban areas, even in working class areas, like Harlow near me in Essex, up north in North Tyneside, Conservatives did not too bad. They held the Mayor of Croydon seat. So if you cultivate the
working class Tories,
respectable result of the Conservatives with the formidable loyalty and vigour of Restore Britain, I think you could have a respectable force that could do some damage to Reform.
Are you a Restore fan? Have you approached Rupert Lowe?
I've not approached him. I'm not really into that. The thing is, Ash, I've had a bit of an epiphany. Is politics for me? Have I been getting too divisive recently? So I think I might have.
You've been doing what, YouTube channel and going around Britain? Are you still doing that? What's your thing at the moment? What's your next thing for George Gilbert?
I've had a bit of time to unwind and ask myself whether the avenue I was going down was the right avenue for me. And yes, I was a bit opinionated. It's good to have an opinion on the world around you, but it's about having that sensible, judicious nature whilst having an opinion, staying reasonable. And I think I was going off on a bit of a tangent. So now I still do gigs like this, but
well, in
I
a
want
way
you to keep me in check.
Once you're in a party system, you've got to toe the line. Like when you come on here, you're free to speak, aren't you?
Well, this is it. Even though Reform kicked me out, at the time I was disgusted, and I still am a little bit. But the point is, if I was a Reform council candidate, they won extra.
You get heard by everyone.
Well, where I live, Reform did superbly in Essex. Of course, they
Russell
won the council.
Quirk, do you know Russ?
I know who he is. He's Chelmsford boy, isn't he?
That's
I don't know him personally.
He's a good lad. He's a good lad. Is he going to be the head of the council?
Gould knows, probably. But yeah, if I was a Reform councillor now, because if I ran for them, I would have won. Because I'm George Gilbert.
But also because you would have won. You don't know what you're missing, man.
But if I'd have won, I would have had to fight tooth and nail for Reform's messages. I would have been in this echo chamber, surrounding myself and my algorithms only with people my side of the fence. These are very unhealthy. And as somebody who was going down a relatively dark path anyway, this wouldn't have done me much good. So actually, this being kicked out of Reform may well be the best thing to have happened to me. So, Nigel, thank you, mate. I owe you one.
You see what you've done, Nigel? You know.
However, having
created
said that,
a monster in him.
I think Restore Britain. We need to support them if you are behind their messages, because even if they don't win power ever, obviously one Great Yarmouth, 10 out of 10. Rupert Lowe, pat on the back.
And they've drawn Reform a bit to the, to make more
this is
firm
it. They're
policies,
shifting the Overton window,
the
as they call
Ovaltine
it.
window.
So, so it's good to support them if you believe in them. However, can they truly win a general election? I think that ship sailed. I think people see them as
Reform?
No, Restore.
Oh yeah, okay.
People see them as too
Nigel
polarising.
is now the right. Will they link up with Kemi Badenoch? Do you think that has to happen for the good of the country?
Reform or Restore?
Reform and the Tories.
Reform don't need to.
He's still very hurt about it. He won't really be honest about that.
I'm licking my wounds.
Anyway, we're going to get Andre back in 0344 499 1000. We've got George Gilbert, we've got Heather, Georgina, Paula, Steve, and Cindy, and you as well. Give us a ring on that number 0344 499 1000. If you're a bit scared, leave us a WhatsApp message. It's Talk with Andre and Ash.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So we were just talking to George Gilbert, and you know what? I was really pleased that you came on the show today. But you were saying that you were glad that you didn't get onto Essex County Council because it's unpaid.
But now you found out you got 15 grand expenses.
Don't put words in my mouth. You're putting words in my mouth, boys.
Well,
I've
words
told
that
you
you
about
said.
this. I said
during the break,
expenses
you said
only.
And then he said, no, you get 15 grand, and you looked gutted.
15 grand? I'm worth more than that.
Yeah.
No, the point is, I think a lot of people have put their name in the hat to join the Reform bandwagon. Oh, I can help the party because Nigel told me to. So they apply to be the council candidate. Little do they know, it's actually a lot of hard work. So I was a parish councillor. We had the county council often come in there, just making notes, give a little speech, what you've been up to, what you're doing for the area.
What do you have to be up to? Like, make sure the stocks are oiled and everything. What parish council?
As a parish, we get a small budget to play with, and that
for what though? Like mowing the lawns and that.
Well, actually, the best example, if people don't know what a parish council does, is the Vicar of Dibley. And I'm not joking.
I never watched
where they get local people together and talk about like things like the village fete and making sure the church is sorted. By the way, I was right in my guess. The allowance for Essex County councillors is in fact 14,000 and 14,471 pounds.
Do you have to prove that you've used those as expenses?
It's not expenses.
So it goes into your bank.
It's pay.
Okay.
It's called an allowance.
Flipping burgers.
Exactly. You make more on a bloody paper round these days.
Yeah. How's that going, your paper round?
I had a paper round when I was 13 years old.
See, this is what we need, more people like this,
Well, the trouble is, a lot of young people can't find work now because they used to go into pubs. But pubs can't hire now because the minimum wage is too high.
And there aren't any pubs.
There's DBS.
Closing and all.
There's DBSs for this and bloody CRBs.
And just when you think, just the final nail in the coffin, a lot of these hospitality businesses use agency workers now because they don't have to do all the paperwork. So they get, a lot of the time, probably illegal immigrants doing that.
And they're temporary, you don't have to pay the national insurance sort of thing.
So can I ask you this question, George, which I asked Andy Williams, and look, the narrative is going to be two things: either a popular insurgency, or people are going to say, "Oh, look, there's this lurch towards populism." And I heard it all day today. Simple answers to complex questions. I say that the reality is most of us agree that this country has been let down by its political leadership. We have different gradients of that, and there is one political party which is sucking up to Islamists, and it's the Greens. Now, am I wrong in saying that?
Well, interesting. On that point, a text has come in from Lee saying High Ash Reformer leading in Birmingham with Green Party secondly in Birmingham. Now, why the Green Party running second in Birmingham? For that exact point.
Probably because, if I was a layman, it's because they've got a high Muslim population. But let's not beat around the bush. A lot of people do vote Greens because they are environmentalists. And I don't think that's a very environmental party.
They don't even mention it anymore.
Since Polanski's taken the reins,
although to be fair, we don't have the full results. The people in, if you like, ordinary areas, traditional British areas, whatever you want to call them, actually, a lot of them who voted Green have ceased to vote Green. What we've seen now is students and Muslims voting Green, or that's what we think we've seen. The reality is, Zach Polanski has brought back sectarianism. I mean, what is amazing about this? The Jew has brought back sectarianism.
The gay Jew.
Yeah. Who needs a dental appointment?
He couldn't hypnotise his own teeth to get straight, could he?
Well, last time I was on here,
I said... dental appointment. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that was some sort of anti-Semitic comment about Jewish people being involved in the medical...
Mind you, I've seen a picture
like a graveyard in there.
With his red tongue. It looks like he's got the St George's flag in his mouth.
Oh, so it's patriotic, I suppose.
We like a bit of that.
But what worries me is this. What worries me is this about Polanski and the Green Party. It seems to me, and I might be completely wrong, that the reason why Jewish people are able to speak in the way that they speak is because some people ran up the beach on D-Day, other people opposed Nazi Germany within Germany, Other people set up the State of Israel. There were Zionists in London, and even, you know, going down to what Asher does as just an ordinary Jewish person who happens to do this job. I think Polanski is able to be the man he is because of thousands, tens of thousands of good people putting their lives at risk in order to stand up for Jewish rights. And he can be the enemy.
But that's not why they went up the beaches standing up for Jewish rights. That was just saving his country.
No, but you see my point. Very simply, that Zach Polanski is somebody who's trading off all of those people. He could not go to Gaza and talk about Gaza. They'd string him up. But he can do it. He can do it in London because of D-Day, because of the Zionists, because of the State of Israel, because of Lord Cohen, because of Nicholas Winton, he can do all that because of the other people. But I'll tell you something: the people who agree with him would be, if they'd have succeeded, he would not be allowed. He would not be able to do it.
Well, it's like the gays for Palestine, the gays for Gaza.
Very true. But we live in a different world to the age of those guys. So even though Zach Polanski and the way he is may not have been accepted by historical figures, if he's talking for probably up to millions of people in this country today, which is what's relevant now, then somebody like it, if it wasn't him, it'd be someone else. Someone will fill his shoes to fly that flag, because there is a need to have a messenger like that in politics. He's just filling the void.
Can I ask you this? Am I being an anti-Semite by, if you like, calling him out for having all these views and being Jewish?
Well, yeah, I mean, your point about running up... I mean, there was plenty of Jews on running up the beaches on D-Day, British Jews who've been here for, you know, hundreds of years.
Yeah, we didn't fight Nazi Germany merely to protect Jewish people.
We didn't fight at all for the Jewish people. We fight for ourselves, for
decent people.
To stop getting invaded and get speaking German.
I don't see the direct relevance of that, but my point is this. I believe that because he is a Jewish person, there ought to be a special requirement on him to attempt to be fair-minded to his own community. Is that unfair of me to say that?
But he isn't trying to just be the representative of his community.
That's up to his conscience, isn't it? His family apparently don't like it. You know, that's his conscience.
I believe, of our political leaders, we shouldn't be able to tell which religion they belong to. That should just be, and he happens to be Jewish, happens to be Muslim.
I mean, if Polanski was sat here, I'll tell you what he would say. He'd say, listen, Andre, you know, my religion, my background, my ethnicity has got nothing to do with you. You have no right to talk about, you know, Holocaust, this, Zionist, that, D-Day, whatever. I'm standing up for my views, and you are deliberately putting an additional hurdle in my in front of me because I'm Jewish, and that may be a fair comment, but it just seems to me that when you are galvanising those people that hate your community so much, surely there has to be.
But they also hate Britain, don't they? And you could say the same thing about Starmer and what he's doing. I mean, these are all people who are treacherous and treasonous.
Let's recognise what the left are good at. They will win by any means necessary. They're willing to throw their own side under the bus if it means, for the greater good, they win Gorton and Denton with a high Muslim population. If Zach Polanski, all he did was support Jewish people, probably wouldn't have won that seat. Because in Gorton there's a high Muslim population, so he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I've got to tip my hat off to that.
But maybe...
What, for having a no conscience?
Well, yeah, that's what politics is. You've got to be Machiavellian with it, Ash.
It's possible I'm completely wrong, and I will accept it if I am completely wrong, but it just seems to me that actually, in truth, the Labour Party are not trying to kill the rich, even though they might be talking garbage. They're not trying.
They are the rich.
They're not trying to. They're not actually trying to shoot the Tories. The Liberal Democrats don't actually hate Brexiteers. You know, Nigel Farage doesn't actually believe that all foreigners are evil. However,
he's never said
that. However, I don't believe Rupert Lowe's a racist. What my point is, I look at all of them and I think there is one party that is galvanising sectarian hatred, and that party is the Greens. And when people say, oh well, yeah, but Keir Starmer said this, Nigel Farage said that, I accept all that. But I just feel like the Green Party are galvanising sectarian hatred.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But whatever it is, they're doing what it needs to take to win people's votes. If they know that all Muslims will vote together, then satisfying that bloc will win them a lot of seats. I think that's wrong and very undemocratic, but nobody's holding them to account.
Well,
they get allowed to get away with it. Exactly, but no one's going to, because it's all namby-pamby, and that's why we need somebody who rules with an iron fist to stamp it out. But we're all too puny. So someone like Rupert Lowe, or we lose it all.
With respect, it's not undemocratic, it's illiberal, and very often we've equated the two together. Actually, it's perfectly democratic to stand up and say, we are the majority, we're going to kick in the minority. If you look at the American Republic, in the way that they created the Electoral College in order to elect the president, then the Senate to represent the states, then the Congress to represent the people, actually they recognised that there is a risk to democracy.
They're bringing in people who aren't British and making them British, and sort of it's a sort of loophole, isn't it? A democratic loophole. A lot of other countries, like in Pakistan, for instance, you have to be from Pakistan, be born there to be in politics or to be able, I think, even vote. And that's the same in most countries.
Just to remind you, if you are from a Commonwealth country and you have the right to reside in the United Kingdom, you can be British Prime Minister. So you could be a Pakistani, or indeed you could be from Sierra Leone, or indeed you could be from Tristan da Cunha. I could list all of the countries: Australia, maybe South Africa. But any of these countries, you do not have to be a British citizen to be the Prime Minister of this country.
Well, in America, you have to be born in America. People say,
no, you have to be a natural-born citizen.
You need to be born in America, I'm pretty sure. No, because I remember Tucker Carlson saying to Elon Musk, "Oh, fancy it," and he says, "No, I can't."
And Boris Johnson could have been, because he was born in Manhattan.
So was Churchill, wasn't he? Was he born?
No, his mum was though. He was born in Blenheim Palace.
So do you know?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Do you know?
I've been there. Nice.
It's not even his house; it was his uncle's.
Do you know why natural-born citizen is important? Because there have been occasions when people have run for president who were the children of American citizens who say that actually, if both your parents were American citizens and you're born outside the American territory, you're a natural-born citizen.
Yeah, well, I always say, if my parents twaddled off to Russia, for example, 2 days before my birthday, and then my mum's waters broke, would I forever be Russian?
Well, in America, if you come to America and you give birth to a baby, that baby gets an American citizenship.
Which is wrong, I think.
Crazy, isn't it?
I mean, a horse born in a...
Even if you go on holiday to America, your kid born in there becomes a citizen.
Dog born in a stable don't make it a horse.
It might think it's a horse, though.
Has to be said. This natural-born citizen thing, there are many scholars and an increasing view of the American government that the Constitution does not say that anyone born in the United States of America is a citizen if you've come over illegally, and it's something the government now disputes. Okay. But for decades, they said anyone who is an American citizen born outside America cannot run for president, but anyone, but I mean, if you literally run across the border, give birth, and go, "Hey, I'm illegal,"
anchor baby,
exactly,
seen a lot of them.
Exactly, I think the Supreme Court's going to rule against that.
I'm not sure if you've disclosed who you voted for yesterday, but since you're both, I'd say,
I couldn't vote.
Leaning,
I'm
why
not
not
the Queen. I can't vote.
Why not?
In my position,
Berkshire didn't vote yesterday.
Oh, fair enough. Well,
you were expecting something bigger.
I thought you'd been a naughty boy like me, on a serious way. But I guess you're both probably, you quite like what you see with reform. Would you also like the fact that they've got Bangladeshi citizens, or nationals at least, running for them yesterday in certain councils? Because they did, and people are saying, "Oh, populist," more like populist.
No. Well, first of all, I don't care about the issue you just put forward.
Some people would who vote reform.
What I will say to you is, I remember talking to Claire, who's our compliance officer, and she said, "Look, it's important for the regulator that you are not party political." But everybody knows you're right wing, but they don't know which party you would have voted for. I have to be honest with you. After that Kemi Badenoch thing, where she stood up to that Gaza bloke, had there been a vote in Windsor where, bear in mind, Reform are not competitive, I don't know whether I would have voted Conservative or Reform. I honestly don't know, and I can't tell you.
Well, I was saying to Ash before you jumped on, the Conservatives did pretty well last night, given the circumstances.
Oh, I thought they did.
In urban areas, like in Trafford, in Wandsworth, they gained in Westminster, held Kensington, even in working class areas, Harlow and North Tyneside. But the point is, if the Conservatives teamed up with Restore and they cultivated each other, I think they could be a force to be reckoned with.
I personally
give it 3 years, a lot can happen.
I don't agree. I don't agree with this whole idea of people doing deals and all that sort of thing. I actually think it will naturally work itself out. So, as an example, if you look at Reform voters in Kensington and Chelsea, they clearly voted Conservative on their own without a deal. Equally, Conservatives in Wigan clearly voted Reform, right? You know, I think there is a natural...
Yeah.
There is we live in an age of communication, George.
But the right are less tactical with their voting, I believe.
Well,
I think the left have got it more than us.
I'm not sure that's so true. The number of seats, I think, were, you know, where there will be a majority for the right, where the right loses, I think it's going to be pretty small.
The last election, if the Reform and Tories would have come up with an agreement to not stand in each other's seats, they would have been in power. It's a fact.
Yeah, true.
Well,
there was a couple of seats where only one vote was the deciding factor.
It was about 8 votes.
Yeah, always get out and vote, people.
Yeah, always vote.
But allow me to make this point. I'm really, really glad that the Conservatives did not stay in power as a result of Reform at the last election. And whatever you say about Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak and that lot were a shambles. You need that natural cycle to take place. I mean, half the problem in Wales, the reason nobody's voted Labour is because they've had enough of them. You can be in power long enough to be deluded enough to believe that the national speed limit for your country should be 20 miles an hour. Right? There is a level of complacency that will make you that delusional.
And the same thing happened in Scotland with putting, men in women's prisons. That was their main issue, and it finished them.
Sensible people, if they are in charge for 26 years, will in the end decide that 20 miles an hour as a national speed limit says.
I don't think Thatcher and Blair. It goes to
that's not a characteristic of someone who's been in power for too long, because the likes of Xi Jinping is doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, but they don't really have lives, do they?
No, maybe not on the human rights front.
No, their economy's failing. China's economy is
only because they've got a birth rate crisis.
No, we've had this.
They've got an aging population.
We've had this conversation before, and let me tell you.
Putin, Russia loves him.
Right.
It's true.
Okay. Vladimir Putin is widely loved in Russia, and to be fair, you watch the Western media and they go, if there was an election, Putin would lose. Incorrect. He'd win. Right. But
he'd make sure of it.
But let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing about Putin. Had there been democratic oversight, political oversight, the stuff we're doing now of him, his discharge of the war in Ukraine might have been a success. As it actually is, it's been dreadful. If you think about it, the big problem with democratic countries is this: it's a bit of a mess. The big problem with autocratic countries is nobody ever tells the leader he's wrong, so he keeps going.
No, but people like Putin or Xi, I mean, I haven't read their laws of their land, but I don't think they're coming up with these asinine laws like 20 miles per hour nationwide. That's just stupid. That's a result of the people in Wales in charge who are batshit doolally-wallies.
Okay, but let me give you the 20 mile an hour example with Vladimir Putin. Right. So Vladimir Putin wants to invade Ukraine. Now, by the way, we all agree, and we've done it plenty of times on this show, Zelensky's a crook, Putin's a crook. It's an argument about who's the biggest.
In your opinion.
Okay, well, in my view, they're both crooks. Let's just be clear. By UK standards, both Zelensky and Putin would be in prison for corruption. Right, so if we're going to go by the UK standards.
Yeah.
What happens is with Putin, he only hears what he wants to hear. There is no dissent in terms of the media. There's no independent debate or whatever. And so on the most basic level, he does this. I'm telling you something about the military, even though I've never been a military commander, but I can tell you this really simply. You cannot fight a war unless you understand the operational capability of all of your units, all of your battalions, all of your regiments, whatever it is. Everybody told Putin, yes, 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 yes. So he deploys, an armoured brigade that can't do what he's been told it can do. That basic level of scrutiny is his problem. So you're not going to hear about Xi Jinping's mistakes, but Xi Jinping, conversely, will not benefit from criticism of his administration when he makes mistakes. And actually, so on the one hand, yes, he sounds more competent. On the other hand, he's lost the advantage he gets from people like us, and we do benefit the British government by doing what we're doing.
True. There's an old Vietnamese proverb.
Is there really?
Yeah, here we go. It doesn't
hold that thought. Let's take a break and we'll come back with George Gilbert's Vietnamese proverb. It's Talk with Andre.
It's a good one.
Vietnamese proverb after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the Late Show. This is the paper review with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and George Gilbert. Now listen, our friends in Northern Ireland who've been enormous supporters of the show have been in touch with George Gilbert and said, you should run for Restore UK in Northern Ireland, because you look like William of Orange, so you do.
Or Elizabeth I.
No, I think I'm buying the William of Orange thing.
Yeah. Do you know, carrots were purple.
Never been there.
Carrots were purple before William of Orange came here. They were made orange to celebrate his coming.
Surely
but George, that is actually
so
true.
Do you know how that sounds? Ludicrous.
No, it's true.
Patriotic Dutch farmers, when they found one orange carrot, began breeding it like mad.
Because that's why they have those posh ones in Waitrose. They used to be the run-of-the-mill ones. But anyway, I know why you're all still here, because you want to hear the Vietnamese proverb that George was promoting. So let's hear that Vietnamese proverb.
Sit back.
Take it away,
You're going to love this. There's an old Vietnamese proverb. You might have heard of it before. It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. Now, Xi Jinping and Putin, like them or not, they're catching mice. They're doing what they feel needs to be done for their countries to prosper.
Are they black or white cats?
Who cares?
It doesn't matter.
One's white, one's a colour. Is it derogatory to call Asian people?
No, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
I knew what I was going to say. That don't.
But why is that derogatory?
It's not.
Because calling a black person black, surely, is because they're brown. Really,
right? Listen,
black people are brown.
Listen. Let's not do the cat thing, right? Listen,
Galloway, he
blame
did
the
cat.
Vietnamese.
No,
It's not my fault.
I'm only trying to help you. I'm only trying to help you.
Trying to help you.
I will tell you. I will tell you my concern. My genuine concern from what I've seen, and we're going to move on now. But what I've genuinely seen is that actually these dictatorial governments are not better run. Actually, what we do in this studio and what you do when you phone and indeed listen and indeed watch, I think actually benefits our country. Because what happens is, if you go down the pub and you're able to, and people don't know this, they don't believe this, if you go down the pub and go, oh, Keir Starmer's a bit of a knob, I quite liked Nigel Farage, and somebody goes, yeah, but Nigel Farage said this, I didn't agree with it. That is brilliant. Let me tell you the fact. You know, the vast majority of people, when they go down to vote, are not going to affect the result. The purpose of democracy is actually getting a national conversation so that you can draw the ideas out. Listen, let me tell you, the vast majority of times it just goes right-wing government, left-wing government, right-wing government. It's just ping-pong. It's almost like, oh, Tony Blair's won. Yeah, but there's been 18 years of Conservatives, right? Actually, the reality is it's drawing these ideas out and getting civic society, ordinary society, people down the chess club, people down the pub talking. That's actually the purpose of democracy.
You'd like to think so, but the amount of people I talk to, they say, oh, it doesn't matter, whoever gets in, they mess it all up. So this...
Yeah, but that
the
in of
morale
itself...
But the morale towards democracy is at rock bottom and everyone's lost faith in it.
Yeah, but George, think about what you've just said. Whoever you get in messes it up. So what happens is you keep getting new people in. That churn in of itself benefits the system.
But if they keep messing it up, what's it all about?
Because ultimately what happens is you get multiple people messing it up rather than one person messing it up forever, and in the end you'll get it right on that basis. I'm not saying it's perfect. Anyway, I'll tell you what we should do. I think we should take some calls. Come on, let's get some calls through. Who's this Richard in Belfast?
By the way, let's go for a foot about this as well while we line them up. The Sun, Vernon and Tess split after 22 years. Vernon Kay and Tess Daly have split. So that's the big story. You can also get your FIFA World Cup 2026 Panini Stickers album inside today, free in the Sun. And also Farage, of course, there, grinning, one of his big grins there. And, yeah, Bacchus, he's saying, and it's looking like it's the start of a new foundational party in this country. Right, let's go to the Daily Express. Farage's vow to fix Britain. Nigel Farage has vowed to fix Britain as he triumphed in the local elections. Were you expecting as big a triumph? I think we were, actually.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we were. Right, we still haven't got a call. Let's go to the Guardian.
Havering Town Hall. Look at that, Havering.
Havering, yeah. Also in the Guardian, Italian spring stews. If you want spring stews with an Italian, pretend you're Italian, like it's sophisticated. Get the Guardian. Dire election results, pile pressure on PM. It's the Guardian, who cares? Right, again in the Mirror, Tess, what's her name? Tess and Vernon split. Yeah, that's it. Tess and Vernon, very sad, isn't it? And the Daily Telegraph, this is the big story. MPs break cover with calls for Starmer to quit, and a lot of the union leaders and the MPs, his Labour MPs, are saying, you've got to quit, Starmer, enough is enough. His backbenchers don't like him. But he's very thick-skinned, and he really is drunk on power, isn't he? And he's just not going to go. Do you think he won't go?
Actually, I don't know if he's drunk on power. I just think he just genuinely believes he's doing the right thing. George,
you really think
George, you know, I really respect what you say, and I think you're an alternative thinker. No, genuinely. You look at somebody like Starmer, I think he believes that, you know, what he says, genuinely, if you vote for me, I will do more of what I'm doing. The reason that people are not voting for me is because I'm not doing enough.
Do you think he believes in what? Do you think he lies to himself that much, like he lies to everyone else?
You got to put yourself in his shoes. He's come in at a time where we've had, what was it, 5 Conservative PMs in 5 years or something like that. Yeah. Which is ridiculous. That's no.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
That's not stability by any way, shape or form. So he doesn't want to throw in the towel, and I get it. Even though everyone in their right minds realises he's doing a rubbish job, to be fair to him, he wants to be there through thick and thin. There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days.
He's never going to get that job again.
Well, I think he's a weak man. I don't trust him. I would never vote for him. But considering the state this country is in with regards to politics and stability, I do think he's trying to give his best self to the job. And for that, thank you. But don't really want him. And plus, if he went, who's going to replace him? Somebody's probably even worse. So I don't really care about him resigning.
George, can I ask you this question? I think, by the way, I think that's an excellent point. They're all terrible. If you were to be put in charge of this country, what would you do? I've thought about this, so I'm going to throw out what I would do. I would have the Great Repeal Act. I would repeal every piece of law from today right up until 1997 to John Major. I'd just say all of it was terrible. We're repealing
system reset, like on a computer, where you can go with the date and press.
Well, actually, now that was the easy answer. What would you do?
Yeah. I mean, you practically, that's very difficult to do. Let's face it.
I would do it.
You can't just.
You could actually pass. No, you could pass a law and say we now go back to our laws from 1997, and then you can add the modern laws. Obviously, things have changed. Obviously, with technology, you can add those in.
And the only party willing to have that sort of conversation is Restore Britain. For instance, on the immigration front, they've said that anybody who's had a visa issued to the United Kingdom and is still here since 2000, since the start of the century, they will review it. They don't believe that the leadership we have had, Conservatives or Labour, since the turn of the century, has been good for the country.
It's sham citizenship.
They want to knock the whole system down and rebuild it up from the foundations.
I want to ask you a controversial question. Now, by the way, we're regulated by Ofcom, so I don't want to get nasty, and I don't want to get anybody cancelled. But I look at this now, and I think to myself, I've been very affected by what's. You know what? I don't want to sound like I'm being weird with Asher, but I hear what people say who are recent migrants to this country about Jewish people. I hear it. Now, look, do I feel personally threatened by it? Actually, yes, I do, because it's my community, it's my world, it's the country that I grew up in. I think there needs to be a review, and I think we need to start saying, if you don't like the values of this country, it's time to think about going somewhere else. Now, what we've done in the past is said, if you were born here, if you've got a passport, whatever. I thought what we did with Shamima Begum was absolutely right. No. Bugger off to Bangladesh. Now, of course, she can't walk that far. It's not possible.
It's not my problem.
But when I look at this country, I think to myself, look, we're going to have to start saying to ourselves, there are some people who are there are some ideologies that are incompatible
like
with
they did in America in the 40s and the 50s, the anti-American, the Reds under the beds McCarthyism, which was a bit dodgy, but sort of...
but only dodgy because it succeeded.
Yeah, well, British basically proved you're British and that you like our values.
Trouble is with that, Andre, is that generalises all groups to think the same. That's not a very Christian stance to take, to tar everybody with the same brush just because they come from Somalia.
I'd say for even British people who don't believe in our values.
I'd agree, but what if they're only citizens of this country? We can't just deport them because then they'll be
there was an interesting example. I forget the name, though I'm sure the producer will get it for me. A former Hampshire police officer who went over after the fall of the Soviet Union, went over to Russia and became a Russophile. And he now works in Russia and has been given Russian citizenship. He has been stripped of his British nationality on the basis that he's pro-Russian. Now, everybody says you only do it to Muslims. Actually, it has been done to somebody who is pro-Russian. Now, the extent to which that's been done as a PR stunt is questionable.
Same as Shamima Begum.
However, that law which says if you are somebody who doesn't believe in British values, don't stay in Britain, has been applied to a former British police officer who lives in Russia.
But how do you define? Oh, yeah, he's just past the cusp of being British
have trials like they did in America to decide maybe a jury and a judge. Are you compatible with British values?
Do you know how they judge that? Is it a historical culture test?
Well, the reality is the McCarthy era was seen as a disgraceful piece of American history. But always remember something: people criticised Truman for nuking Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it ended the Second World War, right? I mean, the reality is, whatever you say about McCarthyism, the reality is America wished to preserve its democracy. Its democracy was preserved. We had a guy, George.
Ronald Reagan was part of that.
We had a guy on this show last night who turned around and he said, "Do you know what? I think at some point people are going to recognise that for everything that you've been told about Christianity being awful, actually we're starting to realise it wasn't that bad for Britain." By the way, the name of the guy was Mark Bullen. Now, what I want you to do, Asher, is give another plug on the calls, because we want to hear from people who were political campaigners yesterday, and then we'll go to a break.
OK, everyone, get your pen and paper, right? Write this down. 0344 499 1000. Write it down. If you don't want to call it, we'll call you back as well, because I know you're a bit tight, you know, Skinflints. We'll ring you back. And if you're a bit scared to come on live, you can leave a WhatsApp message on that same number. Leave it, make it about a minute, and we'll play it out if it's good. 0344 499 1000. We're chewing the fat. We're going through tomorrow's papers today. Yeah, we'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is The Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and George Gilbert. And George, we were talking just a couple of moments ago in the break about being cancelled. You've been cancelled before. I turned to you and I said, I think that I'm very good at knowing how not to be cancelled. You think I'm talking garbage, don't you?
I do, the pair of you. Always talk garbage,
why.
but this is because we don't know what the line of acceptability is. What you find offensive may be different to what you find offensive. So therefore, you can't be good at not getting cancelled, because I'm sure I could pull up a whole bunch of comments the pair of you have made on this show that had I have said it in Big Brother or any other game show for that matter, I would have been thrown off. So yes, you know how to regulate yourself in certain environments, but at the end of the day, I just like a debate on Big Brother.
Here's the bit I don't get. Here's the bit I don't get that really annoys me. Right, so you've got that Shahid bot, whatever his name is. in Birmingham.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now he's saying, even though I'm a convicted terrorist, I'm no longer an anti-Semite and I support British democracy. Now, I'm not able to say my views on him because obviously I don't want to get into trouble. But I would suggest to you that you have been in trouble for debating a point. He is very good at denouncing you because he knows how to shut his gob. Now,
well, also he's in a stronger position.
There is a big difference.
System.
There is a big well, that is definitely right, Asha. Yeah. But there is a big difference between people who are bad people shutting their mouths and good people trying to debate politics. Your mistake in life is being a good person debating politics in a world where the bad guys know, oh, he said that, oh, come on. We know.
And he's a white guy. That's where you
it doesn't help.
We know how much Keir Starmer hates ordinary white working class people. We know how much Keir Starmer, how much Jeremy Corbyn is up for terrorists. We know all these. I know Hitler. I mean, we know what these people are. What they are is very good at speaking in a way that defends themselves. But look, when, as an example, Ken Livingstone turns around and says, I've always tried to support peace in Northern Ireland. No, you haven't. You've given succour to the enemy. No, the enemy later started negotiating with us, but you didn't do anything in terms, and it upsets me that it's potatoes and tomatoes. You are interested in debate. They are interested in cutting down good people.
Trouble is, they know how to play the game.
Yes.
I'm not so wise, so I tripped up and they caught me out.
But the game is stacked against you as well.
Well, this is it. Have you ever read Othello? He reminds me of Iago.
I've played the game Othello.
They're evil, they're conniving, and I guess I didn't know how to play the game.
But there are hundreds of thousands of people, I'd like to think millions of people, listening and watching this broadcast who are going to feel exactly the same way, because their children go to school or their grandchildren go to school, and if they say anything like that autistic kid who dropped a Quran, I mean, grow up, right?
Exactly. Well, the autistic guy, John at the Netflix, was it the thing where he said the N-word and then everyone had a go at him? I mean, and it was his disability. He can't help saying things like a bit like you, although you haven't got that excuse, have you?
Well, yeah, people are saying I need to get tested because they think I'm autistic or something. It's just a label. What benefit would it be to my life if I could say, "Hi guys, my name's George and I'm autistic"?
But hang on, people have contacted us saying he's a breath of fresh air, George. The reality is,
Zarina Francis,
you're not.
Zarina Francis.
You're not saying,
join the queue, baby girl.
You're not saying you're not sexist. Always a sexist. I'm joking.
He is.
But it's not as if you're saying anything
that
ordinary people disagree with.
Well, we don't live in a world, certainly this country, where you can have debates.
We don't have
anything.
freedom of speech, do we? No.
But where do I go? This isn't a world I want to live in.
No.
So the choices are for young men like me.
Well, tell us about young men like you. Are people leaving at 20 or 24? A lot of people are leaving other countries saying, I've had it here. I saw a German guy saying he's finished here. What are you?
I'm not surprised because I want to make the most out of my 10, and I don't feel this is the place for me to do that.
Do you think your future will be somewhere else then?
Gould knows, but the likes of America is better in terms of freedom of speech. If I want to build a business, maybe Dubai, maybe Indonesia, maybe Portugal. What good is this country? I'm very patriotic, so I'm here. I've got my family and friends here. But at the end of the day, if I wanted business, I wouldn't be here. If I wanted free speech, I wouldn't be here.
You wanted a house.
What have I got here? Keir Starmer? It's a joke. But no, I think tough times don't last, tough people do.
Tough men breed tough men.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's strong men, easy times, weak men, hard times.
Red hair.
Strong men.
It's interesting, actually, the number of people that have said to me, look, what you guys do, you're in real trouble. You cannot continue in the United Kingdom. I've got a very dear friend of mine. In fact, I'll say who it is. Maya Tusi, who obviously has become now one of the biggest broadcasters, conservative broadcasters actually in the world. He genuinely, look, he's a patriot for this country, but he's moving out of jurisdiction because he believes the police, Ofcom, the Crown Prosecution Service, Keir Starmer, will shut him down, and prudence dictates that he leaves, and he's asked me to leave the country as well.
And Iranian
he
sleeper
going?
cells. Iranian sleeper cells.
Well,
Where's he going? Because
we can't tell you that, can we, George?
But the point is, if he goes to America, you've got political commentators over there that have been cancelled for saying whatnot. So the point is, I don't think we can escape it. We're locked in the matrix.
Well, it's not so bad in the States, you know. They have
my own view is this. You know, if we had to broadcast this show like Radio Freedom in the Soviet Union from outside the country, I'd be bitterly disappointed.
But aren't we just a release valve? You know, I always think, why do they let us broadcast? You know?
Well, I think that's part of it.
Well, is anything off limits? Where's your line of freedom of speech? Is it if it incites violence, it's below the belt?
Well, you can't incite violence. You don't want to incite violence.
If I went out with a foghorn and said, everybody, burn this building.
If it actually does cause people to do that,
but that's a subjective claim.
Oh, come on.
You can't, because I could say...
The Brandenburg test.
Supposing somebody was a school shooter and on the car journey there, they were listening to a Taylor Swift song, would you blame Taylor Swift?
No, because they're not directly inciting it.
But a lot of people are blaming the likes of Andrew Tate because these school shooters may have been watching Andrew Tate. Oh, there's a link. Why not the link to Taylor Swift?
That wouldn't pass the Brandenburg. That wouldn't pass the Brandenburg test.
But it's subjective, and that's where it can be corrupted.
But I agree with you. And the Free Speech Union says we have to follow America. This Brandenburg thing that he's talking about, which is there has to be a direct correlation. Yeah, you
subjective.
No,
it's not like Charles Manson, the murderer. He said, "Go to this address and kill those people." That is directly him sailing them. These
so
people.
if he said jump off a cliff, would
and
they?
They did
no,
it.
They wouldn't.
And they did it because they were on acid and they'd come under his spell and they did it. Yeah, it's direct.
So, but it's important to understand what Asher's talking about in terms of this
Lucy Connolly, that was ridiculous.
Brandenburg thing. If you say, well, actually, you know, I don't care if you kill whatever. What the Brandenburg test says, which is not the way it operates in Britain, it's the way it operates in America. I have to say on this broadcast, go to X and do Y, and somebody has to do Y in order for it to be actually an incitement.
But actually, Lucy Connolly...
So I have to actually, so to be clear, I have to say commit a criminal offence, B, somebody has to commit that criminal offence, and C, it has to be carried out. All of those things have to happen.
But that is in our law as well, and the irony is she was let down by her defence lawyer. If she would have gone to court, pled not guilty, as the ones that did, she would have been found not guilty, because we do have that direct in our law that it has to actually incite. But they were pressured by Keir Starmer. He said you'll be charged, convicted and put in prison before any trial.
Flip that on
and they knew, they got the message, all the judges did and the lawyers.
Flip that on its head. What if it's a positive alteration that happened? So if I said to you when you're a little boy, oh, Andre, you should become a political commentator, you make a killing, all because I've said, oh yeah, you should go and do that, mate. Am I entitled to some of your salary? No. Oh, cheers, George. Anyway, go about your day.
But incitement is criminal, not civil.
It doesn't matter. You're blaming me for one thing and not blaming me.
Anyway, look, we got to go, George. Any last words before we expel you from the building? Call security.
I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise you it won't be boring. David Bowie.
03444991000. It's Andre. Now stay with us, because after the break we'll have Stephen Kent, Conservative columnist, back after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and normally at this time we have a discussion about some of the more bizarre issues of the week, some of the stories that perhaps you won't see in other parts of the media. Okay, one of those is that UFOs have been sighted with metallic orbs somewhere near America. My goodness me. Stephen Kent is a Conservative commentator. Stephen, update us on what Donald Trump is up to vis-a-vis any of this, because I'm confused.
Releasing the data.
He's making us all believe a little bit more. No, about a year ago, Donald Trump issued a directive in the middle of the night ordering the FBI and Department of War to start declassifying files, videos, PDFs, documents related to the sighting of UAPs and UFOs going back to the 1950s. And so today was the first wave of document dumping, and you can find that on the Department of War's website. I've been going through a lot of these files for a couple hours today and just seeing what's new. There's some pretty fascinating stuff in there.
Like what? Give us an example of that. What's happened? He just stopped. Wait, I think he said too much. The authorities are listening.
He knew too much.
He's back. They tried to stop what you're saying. What is it? So give us a little taster of what new was it in these release documents?
Yeah, well, maybe they're trying to censor me from within the CIA. Yeah, you know, one of the new documents that we have are photos from the 1969 Apollo mission to the moon, and some pretty fascinating photography from the surface of the moon, which shows strange shapes in the distance beyond the moon in deep space.
I think Matt from our mystery department has sent us sort of patches of sort of stars, isn't it? It looks like.
Yeah, patches of stars, an orb-like shape that looks sort of like a pill capsule in the far distance. You know, images that we have not seen from the 1969 trip to the moon. And then going to 1972, another Apollo mission, just strange shapes in deep space.
That weren't meant to be there astrologically.
Stephen, look, my interest is politics rather than UFOs. You know, in terms of the political impact of all of this, look, I'll tell you where I'm at, and you can agree or disagree with me. You know, 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, UFOs, complete garbage. You know, angels in the sky, complete garbage. You know, all of these pictures of this, picture of that. There is no doubt the American government is taking this more seriously. No, actually, that's wrong.
No doubt.
There's no doubt the American government took it more seriously than they allowed us to believe they took it. And now we have an American president who believes in transparency. Where does that leave us?
I think that's going to leave us with a very confused and anxious public for many years to come. One of the documents that I was looking over is from the mid-'70s, and it's from a director of science in the aeronautics division of NASA. And in that document, he's laying out all the different cases for intelligent life beyond our reach and understanding. And then in the end, he concludes in this document that we will do nothing about it until the problem is right in our face, and we will solve it through panic. And I think that is probably the most true document out of all of the different images and videos that I've seen in there, even including one that depicted a very strange orb-like object flying through secure space in the Indo-Pacific around a military base just a year ago.
But don't they know ultimately they're far more advanced than us? There's nothing they can do. There's always been reports of big American warships being just frozen by these UFOs. And also lately, what's going on with all these missing scientists has been, and Trump's actually mentioned it, lots of NASA people who look at gravity propulsion specifically are just going missing or like
it's
killing
strange.
themselves.
And
when
there seems there feels to be like a connection between those things. I mean, you're either dealing with a new Cold War between China and Russia, and we're fighting over scientists with secret technology, or this is related to the UAP and alien phenomenon. There are documents that I read today that detail scientists from the 1980s expressing that they're afraid that they might be killed if they talk about what they have seen and experienced. But a lot of the documents go back to World War II. So if you're interested in UAPs, a lot of this stuff began in World War II. There's a document where American and British forces are over Germany, and their planes are being followed by red, blue, and green lights that are following them in a T-shaped formation, and they could not shake them. And this is in the year 1944. Red, blue, and green lights flashing in the air in the middle of 1944. That doesn't make sense. What would that be?
But to me,
a lot of this picked up then and has not slowed down.
But to me, it made perfect sense. Now, what I'm about to tell you is based on nothing other than my own. By the way, are you a whiskey drinker?
Sure am.
Right.
Are you?
No, I'm sorry. We've got to stop this broadcast just for a second. What type of whiskey is that?
Just Maker's Mark, nothing fancy.
Right. Just to be clear,
what, Jim
it's
Beam?
got It's got ice in it.
Is it bourbon?
Yes,
no, stop.
A rock. A single rock.
No.
Yeah.
No. Right. Just to be clear.
Where's the cigar?
No, stop. You do not drink whiskey with ice. Have you never been on my show before?
Iced water, though. A little jar of iced water.
I'm unsophisticated.
Right, okay.
I'm a rude
American.
Let me explain something to you. So the best way to drink whiskey actually is to take a sherry glass. Where what happens is you put the stem in between your fingers and you warm it up. Right. The reason the reason is what you are doing with the ice. And now, by the way, nothing wrong with putting ice in a drink if what you want to do is cool it. The problem is with whiskey, it removes all of the flavour.
The vapours. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, so I'm totally with you there. I am not a connoisseur of whiskey, but I will say that when you put a rock into whiskey, even to drink it neat, you need to drink fast, because the more that
you
thing
mean a
melts,
rock of ice?
Yes.
Yeah.
The more that thing melts, the nastier the drink is.
So I'll tell you how to drink whiskey. Really
down your mouth.
Really simple.
Just down it. You know,
No.
I've been looking at all these UFO files today and just downing whiskey throughout the day.
Okay, the way to drink whiskey. Well, look, you can be drunk on my show. It doesn't bother me. But I mean, drunk by Americans.
Ofcom allows that.
I mean, drunk for Americans is like 3 beers, isn't it? So look, here's what you need to do. Right. If you're gonna, we're gonna try and send you some whiskey that's good. Right, so first and foremost, the most important thing is you're only going to drink a very small amount. So what you'll get in the bottle will be something that maybe you will put 50% water, 50% whiskey, right? Then you'll make sure it's room temperature. Absolutely, do not chill it, right? Okay. If you want to mix it with a mixer, then there's no point in taking a decent whiskey. My view is, if you take something an Islay single malt. Now, what is the Islay single malt that I keep talking about on this show? Lidl, which is the discount retailer in the UK, sells a product called
Lidl, you barbarian.
Yeah, no, Lidl. Ben Bracken Islay single malt, which retails for $16.99. I'm telling you that's Bowmore Legend, right? And Bowmore Legend retails for £35 a bottle. What we're going to do is we're going to get you a bottle of Lidl whiskey sent over to you. But look, I know you're American and I know traditions are different, but look, would I eat a pizza with a knife and fork in front of you? That is what you're doing.
Well, you could possibly be elected president if you did that, because Donald Trump
be doing that. It's not acceptable, right? Listen.
Well, you have your producers send me the whiskey. I will put it in my C.S. Lewis branded glass and drink it.
By the way, on the subject of Scotch whiskey, what great news that as a celebration of our friendship and our support for the United States of America, that Donald Trump is dropping the proposed whiskey tariffs. So Scotch whiskey
for the King Charles visit, wasn't it? To celebrate.
Kentucky, the people of Kentucky are very excited about this, and it has been a huge blow to consumers of whiskey in the United States. So everybody's happy.
By the way, I will say one thing. Maker's Mark is not a bad whiskey. People misunderstand this.
Sure.
You know,
is it like the Blue Nun of whiskies?
No, it absolutely isn't. And people say Bell's is crap. It's not.
There's single malt Bell's. There's all different types of Bell's.
My own view, actually, is any whiskey that you will buy in the United Kingdom or the United States of America will be good, and then there's gradients of good. So for me, I wouldn't bother. If I was buying a whiskey for somebody, I wouldn't bother spending £80 or $100 because I think there's very few people that will notice the difference. Maker's Mark is superb. My only complaint is...
The rule is the same. The rule is the same as with wine. It's trash if it's underneath $10, but then after you go above 10, there's this weird range between 10 and 40 where it's kind of just all fine. And then after you start paying over $50 for a beverage, it's just about very refined.
And once you've had half the bottle, it's all about the same anyway. But anyway, back to the UFO.
No, I think what we should do is, given that I've completely derailed the interview, why don't we go to a break and then we'll come back.
Have a drink and we'll be back. Yeah,
all right, gentlemen.
We'll be back with Stephen Kent to talk more about these UFOs and other American politics after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's lucky that I present with somebody as tolerant as Asher Gould, because this was supposed to be a segment on UFOs and indeed on American government cover-ups, but I managed to derail it and turned it into a discussion about whiskey. We are still joined by Stephen Kent, the Conservative columnist, who is now been suitably rebuked for his views on whiskey. Asher, you want to ask?
I'm just looking at the US Department of War's website, war.gov, and looking at all these releases. And you've had a brief look through in the time you've had with it. Do you get the feeling they're using this to cover up the real meaty stuff?
No, I don't get the sense at all, but I will say that there are documents in there that were previously available. So one of the documents I spent a lot of time looking at was this chief of science within NASA talking about, that most of what they have seen so far in space and regarding the moon and Mars that he thinks it points to intelligent design and the existence of God. And that is sort of a position that NASA and the federal government has not taken for a long time. But then I looked up the document, and it had been public through the State Department for 2 decades now. So I wonder how much of that is in these files, that it is not actually all that new of information.
Yeah, I mean, but we're hearing now that, you know, we hear about pilots and actual professional people spotting them, and now we're hearing that some bases, they were all seeing them all the time, and that they were going, yeah, I saw another Tic Tac today and all this, and it's just become commonplace. It's actually quite well known, so that sort of come out.
It's escalated.
Yeah,
yes.
And the sort of people are now, even if they said there's aliens and that, people seem to go like, oh, so what? Yeah, we know there would be. What happened with all those?
I think you're touching right now on part of the strategy. So if you talk to people within the federal government who work on UAP phenomenon and talk about this, they've said for a long time that there's going to be an effort to prepare the public gradually, and that all of this is going to be an effort to slow roll the information, to let people think about the possibility so that we don't have mass panic when Disclosure Day comes. And there's a movie coming out this summer from Steven Spielberg called Disclosure Day, which is about the same concept. When the federal government finally comes clean and says exactly what they know after they've been getting the public ready for it.
Well, they've just established a website, alien.gov, for specifically that research as well. What about, about a year ago there was all those giant drones all over the States, the size of sort of SUVs. Have we found out what that was? They sort of tried to say, oh, it's a government thing, but at first they weren't. What happened with all that?
I don't remember the exact conclusion, but the answer is no, we don't know what happened there. There were all sorts of unidentified phenomenon that happened around New Jersey that in some cases happened to be civilian drone technology where the lights were way brighter than people expected and they thought it was bigger than it was. But what we do see from 1944 all the way to today is the orb that we sort of thought for a long time that aliens was going to be like flying saucers. But it seems that the technology that we're encountering all the time is hovering orbs of silver or bronze. And that has been consistent now for close to, 70 years.
And no sign of propulsion. They think it's driven by some sort of gravity system.
Some kind of gravity system. One of the one of the videos that you can review of one of these orbs flying through a military secure site in the Pacific just last year does show the orb giving off a heat signature, which does suggest some kind of propulsion, engine propulsion system, which raises some questions because most of what we've come to believe about this stuff is that they've sort of overcome the need for engines.
Well, the other thing
I will tell you something that I think is interesting here is we keep talking about whether or not they are, whether or not they're hostile, whether or not they're friendly. Clearly, they're not hostile if they've been here and observing us for so long. But I was reading over an old letter from a British author, C.S. Lewis, earlier today, where he was asking the question in the 1940s about aliens. And his big question was, are they fallen? Are they also tainted by sin in the same way that human beings are? And that actually might be the more important question is, did our fall make them fall too? And are they clean? Are they free of all of our worldly problems and just observing us like fish in a tank? I think that's actually a pretty interesting question that is downstream of everything else.
We're seeing on the screen some of the military footage, but I mean, of course, people seem to think, oh, there's one type of alien. There'll be aliens that are a lot advanced by, a few hundred years. I mean, Bob Lazar, who says he worked at NASA and in the propulsion labs, he says, yeah, these weren't that much more advanced than us, maybe a couple of 100 years ahead. But of course, the aliens and UFOs that are thousands of years ahead, we wouldn't even know about how much more advanced. So there'll be all different layers of advancements.
If that is what he said, a couple hundred.
Well,
Think about what we have done in 100 years alone. That's an insane thing to admit.
Well, you think about our technology. When Churchill went into war for the first time, he was holding a saber in his hand. When he retired from war, we had nuclear weapons and jets. And that's how quick our systems have moved in 60 years from that to total destruction and jets flying around.
Which might be why they're observing us more than they had in previous years.
They said
because the monkeys now have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, Asher, that was a brilliant point, because when Stephen turns around and says, well, a couple of 100 years, you know, that's a lot. Yes, it is a lot, but it's still only 200 years.
Yeah, exactly, and a lot can happen in that. And also, like I say, we're not. There's going to be aliens that are far more advanced that would be invisible going through and then there's aliens that are slightly more advanced. You know what I mean? There'll be many, you know, infinite amount of aliens and craft, won't there? And that's why we have crashes. The really advanced ones wouldn't crash. It's the ones you aren't, you know. It's the ones that Roswell.
These are all interesting questions. I just hope that this is not the end of the info dump, because a lot of what we've seen here in these documents are fuzzy images, non-conclusive. They're infrared
Is that
cameras.
why they've done it? You think
we're going to need something? We're going to need something a lot more clear to put this to bed. Otherwise, we're going to continue to just have conspiracy theories for the next couple of decades.
And are people experts expressing disappointment in this dump of documents?
Oh, it always depends on who you ask. There are people in this space who are very excited and interested in some of these documents, and there are some people who are saying this is nothing new and we want to see the bodies, right? Because there is all this talk that they have alien bodies.
The alien autopsy, famously,
We don't have an enormous amount of time with you left, Stephen, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
for the discussion with Asher.
I can't tell you're even drunk at all. It's amazing.
Look, you know, these US strikes to attempt to open up the Straits of Hormuz. What's your view on how things are going to pan out? Because you know that we are incredibly, as a show, supportive of the actions of the American government, but you also know that this country is not supportive. I mean, you're welcome to give your opinion in terms of what you would like to happen, but I'd be interested to hear your prediction about what you think will happen.
Well, I'll keep it brief. What I think is going to happen is that there's going to be an inordinate amount of pressure on Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and realign with the West. What is happening in the Middle East? What is happening right now in the Middle East? People do not understand how seismic it is that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, are really moving away from not just OPEC, but their relationships with Saudi Arabia and Iran. They are scared of their own neighbors and aligning with America in an unprecedented way to secure their future. They are not just dropping their dependency on oil, they are moving into the tech and AI space because they want to be part of the future, not the past. Now, the big question is whether Saudi Arabia will join them in that. But currently, they are afraid of Iran. They do not have the technological capability to defend themselves that the UAE has. So if they get aligned with us and join the Abraham Accords, Iran is done. And that is what they're really working on behind the scenes.
But we look, I mean, you know better than I, but it strikes me that the attack on the I don't call it anything other than the incursion by Gaza into Israel, but that happened in order to stop the Abraham Accords.
That's right, exactly right.
But it strikes me that the United Arab Emirates, most of us call it Dubai, but it is the United Arab Emirates, is a much more pluralistic society.
Yeah, they were going to have Disney World.
Much more pluralistic. Well, they do. Yeah, exactly. A much more pluralistic society than Saudi Arabia. I guess my question is, Mohammed bin Salman would like to sign the Abraham Accords, would like to be in with Israel. Actually, in truth, he probably has the view that most people have, which is, I don't fundamentally give a toss who is in your country, right? It's Israel, it's fine. I get the way the UAE can do it. Do you think MBS has got the guts to do it as well?
I think he has the guts, but the Americans are going to have to give him as much cover as possible. This is a rough neighborhood, this part of the world, and they are afraid of losing their clout in leading other Muslim states. But if we give them sufficient cover and technological capability to defend themselves from Iranian rogue strikes, they will join, and Iran will be left to starve, and their regime will fall.
I thought Saudi Arabia were signed up to the Abraham Accords. I mean, America are defending them.
We're doing our best, but they don't actually have their own capability, such as Iron Dome tech.
Why is that?
That is technology that we've shared with the UAE.
Why isn't Trump doing that to get them on side?
I think they're working on it. This is something that's going on behind the scenes.
Can I postulate a theory? My honest thought on that is it's very easy to support the United Arab Emirates. It's very easy to support Israel. Easy when I say easy, I mean politically, not militarily. You know, Saudi Arabia has Mecca in it. You know, it is the centre of the Islamic world. If you were to hand Saudi Arabia all of this military technology, you could have a catastrophe like the Afghan National Army times 500 billion if the regime falls. You know the Emirates aren't going to fall. You know Israel, the Zionists, aren't going to fall. But the reality is Riyadh could.
Yeah, I mean, all these are valid concerns. I think at the end of the day, though, what we are seeing is a complete realignment of the world in a way that people do not really understand. They think this is all about oil flow moving through the Strait of Hormuz. They think this is all about gas prices. This is a fundamental changing of the Middle East. And there are
China, of course,
several large states in that area who are rooting for Iran to collapse, but they cannot be seen doing it publicly. This is the same as with Gaza, Egypt, the Saudi Arabians. They didn't want Gazans coming to their country. They wanted Israel to be taking out Hamas, but they couldn't be seen doing that publicly.
Yeah, they say one thing behind and then another thing, you know.
And just to pull the two of you up there, just to be clear, when the diplomatic cables were released, I forget if it was Edward Snowden or the other one, but when those diplomatic cables were released, one of the things that was very striking was Middle Eastern governments, Arab nations, telling the United States of America to subjugate both Iran and Iraq for being troublesome in the region, but we will all pretend we disagree with it. And that came across so many times.
Right. Yeah, this is the consistent theme in the Middle East. The Islamic states versus the secular monarchies. And the secular monarchies, newsflash everybody, they like money, Western capitalism, bathing suits, clothes, and music. That's the future that they want. They want Disney World, but they need to be free from missile strikes and terror attacks financed by the Iranian regime. We are running cover for the civilized world, and most of the leftists in your country and our country just don't understand it. They don't understand that this part of the world wants a slice of what we have.
Well, we can see that with Saudi Arabia and all the sports washing they're doing, all the boxing they're doing, and all the Formula One. And we can see they want to get away from just making money from pumping oil out. They want to be an advanced Western society. That's
exactly.
Anyway, look, thanks. How's it going with the whiskey? You still all right, yeah?
It's mostly watered down now, so y'all were right in the end.
Nice. Okay, well, look, thanks for coming on. Will you come on again and join us, Stephen?
Next time we're going to do a phone-in.
We'll do a phone-in.
I will, and I will. I'll bust out cigars next time.
Nice one. That is Stephen Kent, American conservative columnist, who joined us. Very interesting about the UFO releases from the American Department of War. Maybe not as much coming out as they've actually got. Anyway, it's all about your calls next. It's me and Andre, 03444991000, at Andre JP Walker, at Virtual Ash on Twitter. We'll be back. Don't forget, no, it's Benedict Fletcher, isn't it? Ben Fletcher.
His name's not Benedict.
His name's not Benedict, but it sounds more. It gives him more gravitas than Ben Fletcher. So Benedict Fletcher is going to be joining TalkSport and talkTV, and he might do a little handover with us in a bit and tell us what's going to come up on the show. But it's all about your calls: Georgina, Paula, John, Steve, Jerry, Dean, Heather, Ken, and Paula. We'll be back after this with them.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, man. 03444991000. It's all going to be all about your calls now. So have we got one? We got Paula there, have we? No, we haven't. No. 0344499.
We've got a full board, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Anyway, KFC's. Well, I like KFC. America do not make whiskey. Brendan says they make a bourbon.
No. What it actually says is, America don't make whiskey; they make Dubon. I think that he means bourbon.
Yeah, Georgina.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Well, nothing's up. I've had a wonderful, wonderful day, a fabulous day yesterday, going to vote. So I voted for the party that I hope that is going to put the great back into Britain. You know, I didn't...
Reform you voted for,
and which one is it?
Well, there's only one at the moment, and that's Reform. But I didn't vote...
No, do me a favour. Why is it going to put the great back into Britain? Because we, at the end of the day, there are viewers and listeners who want to know the answer to that question.
Right, well, the answer to that question is look what Keir Starmer's done to our country, first of all. I mean, he took away our freedom of speech, he took away our democracy, he took away our right to be proud of our culture, our heritage and our flag. He took away the heating benefits for our elderly. He took away the livelihood for our farmers and our fishermen, of our hospitality industry. That's gone right down the toilet. He took away our ability to dig our own fuels. He took away half of our wages in taxes, and he's took away a parent's right over the upbringing of their own children. But
apart from the farmers and the pensioners and the lying and all the other things and all that, what has he done that's so bad?
That is what Nigel wants to put right. And I'm not saying he's going to put everything right. He's only human, okay? The lad can only do so much, and we've got to be patient. But I really do think he's going to give it his best shot. Yes,
Georgina, what happens... Right, OK, I'm going to put the alternative argument. What happens when people say Nigel Farage and Zach Polanski... By the way, I hate the fact they're put together, but people do say... These populists are effectively trying to give simple solutions to complex questions. We all understand this country's got problems. We all understand that people are upset. But actually, you and I and Ash are idiots for believing that there are simple answers to this. What's your answer to people like the Liberal Democrats?
Right, well, my answer is... I don't want to live in fear for the rest of my life and in fear for my children. But, I mean, they're all grown up now. This country now is dangerous. We're allowing fighting-age, sexually mature men into our country. We don't know anything about these people. Now,
Yes, we do. No, Georgina, we know one thing about all of these men. We know one thing. We don't know their names. We don't know their ages. We don't know whether they're children or... We know one thing about them. They're definitely not dangerous. We know that one.
Apart from the one that we found out was a murderer, but we didn't find out until he'd raped a woman, and then we found it out after.
You listen. The British government has told you. Yeah. We don't know whether the children or adults. We don't know where they came from. We don't know who they are. We don't know anything. We just know one thing: they're definitely not dangerous.
And that's perfectly safe to be next to schools. Perfectly safe.
I would love for the people, these Liberal Democrats and these Green voters, to go to the house of one of these parents who've either had the little girls or little boys raped and molested, or worse, that young girl who was stabbed with a screwdriver because she didn't give a migrant biscuit. Let them go to those parents and say that
but don't they say it's not the majority and this is the price we pay for multiculturalism?
Well, do you know what? Multiculturalism sucks. Big time. I'm sick and tired of hearing about, all this cultural cohesion and multiculturalism. Honestly, it stinks worse than old socks as far as I'm concerned. I look out of my window and I can see the devastation that's happening to our country every day. And I'm totally sick of all the BS, were listening to on the,
all the gaslighting.
PMQs. Yeah, all the gaslighting, all the lies. Honestly, if I want to hear lies, I'll ring my ex-husband, okay? I don't need to hear it from Keir Starmer or any of the rest of the...
But what annoys me is that when people say, well, these people, the majority are fine, I'm thinking, listen, if there's 100... Think about this. If there's 100 Somalians, 0 of whom I need in the country, and only 2 of whom are terrorists, but 98% are nice people, I'm thinking, well, I didn't need any of them. Therefore, they go, yes, but most of them are fine. You think, yeah, but I didn't want any of them.
And the other thing they say, the British public are resilient, basically saying if you get raped, dust yourself down and you'll be all right in a couple of months.
Well,
I heard a Defence Secretary saying that.
That is not the case. The case is,
of course it's not,
we don't need to import baddies into our country. We've got enough of them as it is.
Oh, that's what they say. They say, well, our own people rape and murder, and they say, so why not bring in some more? I mean, what ridiculous logic.
Why import anymore? But what's really worrying me, as well as the devastating effect it's having on families in our country, is the economic disaster that this is causing. We can't afford to keep our own people. We can't afford to look after our
Well, we don't keep our own people, we keep the other people.
Exactly, Ash. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, they're expecting people like you and Andre and the working man and woman of this country who work their socks off to look after the family. They're expecting us to dig deep into our pockets.
And that's what they are doing. They're forcing us. They're putting their hands in our pockets.
Do you know, let me just say one thing. Look, I've heard about this multiculturalism thing. We've got the curry recipes now. We've got them. Right, it's fine. When they go, oh, our culture, curry. Oh, listen, I've got the recipe. I'm fine. I don't need 1 million more of you to teach me more about it.
Listen, give me a roast dinner any day of the week.
No, I'm up for a curry. No, I'm up for a curry, trust me.
Also, what I wanted to say, I listened to Keir Starmer this morning saying about, he's not pushing his policies through quick enough. This is how delusional this man is. We don't want his policies. We've been screaming it from the rooftops that his policies are sending our country down.
But he knows that, because that's why he won't ever go out, because he knows everyone will use the W word.
Exactly.
It hurts his feelings. So he knows we all don't like him. Why won't he, read the room? He's just trolling us at this point, isn't he?
He can't read the room. And what's terrifying, actually today when he said that, he's shown him up to be a dictatorial man who has the tendencies to just ignore everything that anyone else is saying.
Well, we know that's what he does.
He doesn't give a monkeys.
Well, we've known that for a long time, haven't we? And that's what he knows we know, and he doesn't care. He's going to hang on in there for 3 years.
Exactly. He's dug himself into number 10 as deeply as an Alabama tick. And I tell you something, I think it's going to take hell and high water to get him out. Even his own party, his backbenchers can't stand the man. He's about as popular as a rattlesnake in a lucky
Well,
dip.
he tried to cancel these local elections, didn't he? He might even try and cancel it, find out, maybe we'll be in a war, maybe there'll be so much civil disobedience and stuff. He'll say, oh, we can't have the elections. It wouldn't surprise me.
And everyone, I've made this point multiple times. Everybody will say, oh, Ash is a fool for suggesting we would cancel elections and whatever. We have cancelled elections. Exactly. We have locked people up. We have placed people under house arrest. We have had mandatory medical treatments. We have said you can't go to work unless you have an injection by some untested garbage. We've done all that already.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we are now living in a police state thanks to this government.
I agree.
We haven't got our freedom anymore.
Well, it actually began before, didn't it, with there's none crime, hate, and then it's just been taken to another level by this authoritarian lot.
Well, we cannot go on the way we are going because our country is dying, Ash. And our, people in our population are dying at the hands of people who are coming over from other countries. Yeah. And we can't do this anymore. Every time I see...
Not only from the people from our own government. Look at the guy, Peter, in prison. What was his name? Peter Lynch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Peter Lynch.
Our own people have died from this,
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you cannot close your eyes and your ears to this monstrosity that's going on in our country anymore. People are starting to wake up. They're starting to see things for what they really are, and they don't like it. Now, if Starmer cannot see the problems that are being caused by his policies within our country, then this man is dangerous. I mean, seriously dangerous.
Absolutely. But I think we've got to leave it there. Let's go to Jerry in Burton-on-Trent. I know we're close to a break, but let's keep going.
Thanks, Georgina.
Jerry, you're on talk.
Go, Jerry.
Hello, guys.
All right, man.
I know this may be a bit boring, but I just wondered, can you explain to me why it is we have local elections every 2 years?
Andre, that's one for you, that is.
Well, we don't. We have them every year, but it depends on the local authority. My own view is we should have a plurality. So yesterday, what happened is some places were all out, some places didn't have elections at all, some places only elected a third. I honestly think that we should have much more local democracy, much more local power. Yeah. I will tell you one thing, which is really sad. Whichever way you voted yesterday, very little changes.
Yeah, well, the problem is that I always thought we had district elections that went on for 4 years, and then we have county elections that went on for 4 years, and a general election that went for 4 or 5. But it seems like you say we have elections every year, do we?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
but it would vary on the place.
No one tell you, Jerry.
But I don't recall the news media going mad every year with elections.
That's because they're not normally that interesting.
Oh, well, because, I mean, I was astonished at how few seats were really up for grabs this time.
Yeah. And you know what? It really annoyed me with the BBC when they went out of 48 seats. The Reform Party only won 10. Yeah, there was only 12 up for election, right? Yeah. There was only a third.
And then they announced that this particular area's got. It's got...
Labour, the Reform have failed to take control of Wigan. Yes, exactly. Because literally there were only 16 seats up, and even though they won 15 of the 16 seats, that wasn't enough to win the election.
It's very complicated, isn't it, Jerry?
Well, the joke, and the other thing I wanted to ask you guys is, I don't think, irrespective of Starmer being replaced, you've got a Labour Party that's split in as much that the majority of those new Labour seats are far lefties. So no matter who leads the party, I mean, you've virtually got the Greens in government already, haven't you?
Well, I think the one difference is, and I keep saying this, and maybe I'm wrong, I just worry about Polanski's flirting with the Islamist nationalists. That worries
so are Labour, though, a bit, aren't they?
Well...
Especially now with the Greens.
Maybe, but I have to say, knock, 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 vote Polanski, support Gaza. When have we ever done that before? I accept it happened in Northern Ireland, but I said this earlier, I'll say it again. The Conservative Party are not knocking on doors saying, if you're a Protestant, vote Conservative. The SNP are not knocking on doors saying, if you're a Catholic, vote SNP. But the Greens are knocking on doors saying, if you're a Muslim, vote Green. And that worries me greatly.
Well, they'll do anything for votes. But what I'm wondering is, irrespective of who takes over as leader, how on earth can they govern with any kind of direction if the majority of the party is so far left, just like Starmer tried to do various things, but
Starmer is there. Let me tell you about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister for the following reason. He believes that he is morally superior to everybody else, and the person who is Prime Minister should be the most morally superior person. And then he believes if we create an international legal system, a framework, then every problem can be resolved intellectually, and the nicest people will always win. It's garbage. Let me tell you why people from Gaza beheaded people in Israel, because they're bad people. Let me tell you why homosexuals are being strung up in Iran, because they're bad people. Let me tell you why grooming gangs exist, because the people operating them are bad people. We need to forget all of this. We're all lovely and let's sing Kumbaya at the UN. Some people are bastards.
So are the covering up people. Starmer's part of the covering up. Isn't he a bad person?
Well, I think he is. I think good people can make mistakes.
But what I'm trying to get at, Andre, is if for the next 2 or 3 years, whoever's leading that party has got to do what these backbenchers want, which is far better stuff. And if they're not going to follow that line, they're just going to be in the same muddle with whoever leads.
So no, you're bang on. But what do you think? Are you more positive after last night's results?
Well, I think it sends a message to the nation.
Yeah,
that's the key thing. It makes us feel a bit more buoyant, and it makes us just. It's like you slap down the lefties, and they tend to shy away. You know.
Do you think Reform are now a proper established party? They're not a protest party anymore. They're now actually an established party of the future.
Yeah, but have you noticed the opposition never accuses Reform of being a protest party longer, do they? They can't.
That's who they're worried about. That's their main opposition. Anyway, look, Jerry, we're going to take a little breaky. It's Talk with Andre and Ash, and we're going to have a little message from Nadine Wales. I was on a walk with her, a sponsored walk for the Kent Hospice that James was in. We went on a Bluebell walk, and we got a little message from Lady W, Nadine Lamont Brown. So stay with us, coming up after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, well, I will just say this. This is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. And I always say it's an incredible, incredible, incredible honour, which I will never live up to, that James Whale asked me to be his, or rather asked the company to make me his understudy. I would never be as good as him. But nonetheless, you know, we've worked together, Asher and I, to try and fill that gap, which I can, of course, never fill. And one of the things that we did last week was that we spoke to James Whale's wife because she wanted to raise some money for the hospice. But, of course, the person to talk about all of this is Asher Gould. Asher.
I went on this sponsor. I actually won. It wasn't a race, but I treated it as one, and I won the race. So that's just the first thing to clear up. We raised, at the time, it was about $4,000. I'm sure it's a lot more than that. And overall, because there were a few groups there, at the time we'd raised 40, and we were the highest raising group, basically because of how quickly I did it. It was a lovely day. It was a Bluebell walk. They never told us it was a very steep hill, by the way, but it was a lovely day, and we did raise a lot of money. As I said, there were a lot of people there, a lot of friends of James's, and then of course we went to his old favourite pub, the Who'd Have Thought It, and had a few drinks with his mate Joe. But let's have a listen to Lady W, Nadine Lamont Brown's message after this walk. Run the VT.
Hi, Andre and Ash. Sorry I can't be there and do a live Zoom call with you, but at my age it's best to be in bed by 10 if possible, especially if you've got an early morning the next day. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to both of you for your support with fundraising for the hospice with our Bluebell Walk last week, but also to your amazing viewers and listeners who were just so heartwarming and touching. So many people were really kind and generous and donated and sent lovely messages. So thank you to everybody. The people on the team as well who did the walking. It was just on the day, I did get quite emotional because seeing, I think there were 17 people that were on our team, and the fact that people just bothered to turn up and do it. And, you know, some people came from quite far away. And so it was really moving. And I know they did it because they love James as much as I do. So thank you, everybody. We raised an amazing amount for the hospice. And yeah, it was just a really heartwarming, uplifting and wonderful day. So thank you all very, very much for your support.
Yeah, and I've just retweeted that Virtual Ash and that Andre JP Walker. I've retweeted the Heart of Kent Hospice Bluebell Walk. You can donate.
Now listen, you can donate, and also if you're a UK taxpayer, you get your tax deduction of 25%. Dobbin, go on Andre JP Walker, make a donation to James Well. I'll tell you why. Because he's a good bloke. He gave me this job. He's a legend. He was a legend in your childhood and mine. And by the way, when I talk about Dobbin, a very rich friend of mine is listening right now, and I'm hoping you'll give 50 quid, just an extra 50 quid to this donation. It's easy to donate.
And also, don't forget about your own local hospice. You know, it's not just about James. It's one that's your local hospice. You can always help out. They all need their help. They're all charities, and, you know, they don't get much help from the state. Anyway, we're going to be talking to Ben Fletcher in a bit as Talk Sport and Talk become as one, unified throughout the night. But before that, let's have Paula in Halifax. Paula, what pearls have you got for us on this Saturday morning?
Good evening, Andre. Good evening, Ash.
Morning.
Ash. Yeah. Oh, I can't stop hiccuping. It's doing me head in.
It's your diaphragm, isn't it? What do you want me to do? Boo! Yeah,
let's have the pukers on at this time.
Shut up, Andre.
Shut up. You're well, as he used to say by school, you're getting done, you.
Did you vote yesterday, Paula? Did you have an election?
Did I, Ellis?
You're drunk, aren't you? Are you drunk? How much have you had tonight, Paula?
She's not drinking booze, it's ketamine.
No. Andre,
why
slurring? Why ruin a good show? We were doing all right. Right, Paula, Ben Fletcher, Paula, stop.
Benedict Fletcher's here. You're embarrassing us in front of Benedict Fletcher.
Be quiet, everyone. Ben Fletcher is plugging in his microphone. You've got 1 minute before you're ejected from the show. Make it count. Go.
Right. Earlier on, that ginger Mings, whatever they were.
George Gilbert.
It were a plonker.
Yeah, next.
That ginger Mings were a plonker.
Yeah.
Okay.
He were a plonker.
30 seconds.
And then other one that you got from America,
20
he were
seconds.
just as bad.
10. 5.
He were a what?
And I'm like,
he was what?
Watching show.
You drunk.
Again. Was that watching show? And
right.
I like fading out the callers like a 70s record. That's Paula in Halifax. Next is going to be Benedict Fletcher. Ben Fletcher.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Ben, I just want you to think about one thing. Yeah. I used to work at the House of Commons. I worked at the European Parliament. I was an economics advisor to London City Hall. I have a postgraduate from the University of London, grade distinction. And I'm having that. Ben, cheer me up.
How can I cheer you up? It's getting warmer, it's getting sunnier. You like this? Yeah, pretty good.
So what's coming up on your show, man?
So this morning we've got the authors of a new book called Things We Found in the Ground. They are metal detectorists, a pair of girls from Lincoln.
It's about Fred West.
Because not many girls do this. I've always fancied doing metal detecting and finding. Have they found?
Come on!
No, you're finding hordes of like amazing.
Yeah, after about 20 years.
Well, it's a really warming story. So these were two girls. They're cousins. One's based in Lincolnshire. One's in New Zealand. They met at a family do at their granddad's place, I think it was, during lockdown, and they realised they had a mutual love of metal detection.
Which
So
is
now-
unusual. And have they found anything?
Loads, Roman coins, like artifacts, all sorts of stuff.
And is there a lot of money in it? There's no money in it, is there?
Yeah, there bloody is.
Well, you say that. They've written a book which is being published by our own in-house publisher, so there must be...
But HarperCollins?
Harper North, yeah.
Wow, that's
treasure trove. When you
Cha-ching.
find it, you know, you have to give half to the government. You get half of it yourself, though, don't you?
It depends on where you get the stuff.
Yeah.
Just
And
don't
what the
tell
stuff
the
is.
authorities.
No,
No, you must.
so if I throw something away and you find it, even if it's 300 years later, it's yours, right, on common
Well,
ground.
presumably. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't hand it down to the family, would you? I mean, if you found like...
Do you know what
People
I do?
do.
Sometimes
People do.
That's my glass bottle from
I've got a
the
friend of
Victorian
mine. I've got a friend of mine, and his wife worked for a member of OPEC as a member of his personal cabin crew, and she had £250,000 worth of diamonds.
Wow.
And he said we went to look for them one day, and he said, I remembered I put them in some paint pots, threw them out.
Yeah.
No,
20 years
But
ago.
I do this sometimes when I'm in a pristine bit of countryside and with a can of Coke, I will actually dig a hole and bury my can of Coke. And it's not littering, because I think in 1,000 years